Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to our weekly live stream Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition online role-playing adventures. We stream our sessions live on YouTube beginning at 9 p.m. Central Time every Sunday evening. You can catch up on previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as weekly session write-ups on my blog at roguewatson.com. I'm Eric Watson, your Dungeon Master, and you can follow me on Twitter at roguewatson. I'm joined by my awesome players. Chris playing Kalinar, the Gold Dragonborn Paladin. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Heather playing Miri, the Human Monk. Hello, Heather.
Hello.
Raymond playing Kethra, the Half-Elf Rogue. Hello, Raymond. And Reese playing... I wasn't sure if he could respond or not. And Reese playing Talus, the Human Wizard. Hello, Reese.
Hello.
For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For video sharing, we use Google Hangouts. For broadcasting streaming, I use Open Broadcasting and Software. And for Super Bowl Sunday, we always use the Broncos and the Panthers. So at this point, I would recap our previous session, but this whole episode is actually going to be one giant recap, so I will not be doing an individual recap. This is our epilogue and recap session, and for those of you that have watched our Shadowrun online role-playing adventures, we do this at the end of each adventure in order to just kind of go over the whole adventure and figure out kind of what worked and what didn't and what could have happened and all these interesting little threads. And it's useful for me as the DM to get feedback from the players and figure out kind of what I need to work on or what was working. And especially now with D&D and this being such a giant adventure, we've never done anything that took us 4 solid months to get through. So this should be quite the recap to get through, and hopefully we can learn a lot from it. But we have finished the Lost Mine of Phandelver. This is the D&D starter adventure that came with the starter kit and is designed for levels 1 through supposedly 5. I think you can get to 5 if you do absolutely everything. I believe we made it to really close to that.
Even the dragon?
I don't know if
probably
you're...
including the dragon.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the dragon, but there was some... Supposedly, you only had to get the dragon down to half health and he flies away, but frankly, I don't know. That dragon was really strong. I don't know how we're supposed to be able to do that.
Should we kill the dragon in between our campaign?
So part of doing this recap means everything now will be off limits in the campaign, because I will be pulling back the curtain on all the things, so... yeah, instead of tying up loose ends, we'll be going into the next adventure. So real quick to do our epilogue... when we left off, you guys had literally just cleared the mine and found the Forge of Spells, defeated the Guardian, which was like the little cousin of the Beholder, called a Spectator. And you guys have restored the Lost Mine of Phandelver, which means you can return to Gundren and Nundro and tell them the good news. You can all return to Phandalin. And you are now welcomed as local heroes that have discovered the Lost Mine of Phandelver. And this will eventually lead the town to prosperity as profit seekers and academics and explorers. And everyone comes around to visit the Lost Mine, mine it for artifacts, research it for a centuries-old war that was still preserved in many ways. Lots of...
Sexy skeleton.
Exactly. People need to inspect those sexy skeleton bodies, figure out exactly what state these people were in when the cataclysmic battle happened. So Gundren and Nundro have all the paperwork for full ownership of the mine, and Gundren will agree to split the profits of the mine with all of you. Each of you can receive a 10% share once it's up and running as a reward for saving him and his brother, as well as clearing out the mine and defeating... half his brothers. And there was some losses. When he opens the mine officially to the public, he will dedicate the ceremony to the memory of his brother, Thardan. In other news, Sildar will remain in Phandalin to help the town grow, and he will set up... basically, he'll run for county sheriff. And he promises that his first act will be to create a militia security force for the town, and hopefully recruit enough people to root out the Cragmaw tribe, goblin tribe from the
Count our
area
legs
once
that.
and for all. Yeah, he definitely considers all of you to be reliable, trustworthy friends. So you guys have definitely made it far on his notch. Otherwise, you guys, and he promises to deliver Glassstaff to Neverwinter personally and hand him over to the proper authorities there. And then the innkeeper, I forget his name, I don't have the thing in front of me, has agreed to provide you guys with free room and board for a solid week. And everybody encourages you to just kind of hang around and basically tell stories and exploits of your adventures in the area. You've become super famous in Phandalin for sure, your comings and goings. Ever since you essentially cleared out the Redbrand threat and then have gone off and had side adventures everywhere. And then you are free to do as you please. I'm going to make it probably where at least a week will go by between this adventure and the next one. And there are things, I believe it's on Player Handbook page 187, that describes kind of things that your character can do during downtime, specifically kind of between adventures or between campaigns. Examples are crafting items, practicing a profession, recuperating, researching, and training. So there are notes in there, and just get with me if you have any questions about how any of those things work. And we will be taking we will be taking a hiatus between this adventure and the next, which is really good timing that we ended it now because next weekend is PAX South, and the weekend after that I will be on vacation out of state. So we are going to be taking a solid 2-week hiatus between this adventure and the next one. And then I will for sure, even though I won't actually be able to work on the campaign much, I am already about, I think, 1 or 2 weeks of content done. So we should be able to jump into it, and then I will kind of reacclimate to furiously getting things done. And the next campaign we are running, I should get the... and this one will assume you guys are playing the same characters. If you're not, definitely get with me. And because it transitions pretty well from Phandalin, and will also assume, even if you guys want to say, like, sell a magic item in Neverwinter or something, please return to Phandalin, because this adventure will assume all 4 of you are in Phandalin when it begins, and I have specific hooks based on the characters you already know, the NPCs you've worked with, that will get you guys to the next location. But this is the next adventure we are running, if you can tell from the glare, Princes of the Apocalypse, which this is based on the old Temple of Elemental Evil adventure from classic D&D. All their published adventures so far have been based on kind of classic stories and just updated. But this is a significantly, I will show you the difference. This one on the left is the Lost Mine of Phandelver. This is about 64 pages, including like appendices and all that. And the Princes of the Apocalypse is approximately 250 pages. So if this took us 4 months, I imagine this one will be in for the long haul, possibly. Maybe even the rest of the year, I don't know. It'll see. I do think it'll help if we make 9 o'clock our new permanent start time. That would immensely, over time, will certainly add up to averaging out our sessions and being able to get more done in a week. By the way, super happy, everybody, round of applause for not missing a single week in 19 straight weeks of D&D. That is amazing. For 4 adults, 5 adults, 4 adults, 5 adults to come together every week for 19 weeks.
Don't worry, his math class is taken next week. He'll be better next time.
Occasionally we had to shuffle things around. We did a Saturday session. We've done Monday sessions. We've done slightly shorter sessions. But we've never had to miss a week. That is really cool, and I think a big reason why this has worked as well as it has. So thank you immensely to you guys for showing up.
You're welcome.
I'm going to miss 5 weeks.
I'm out here.
So, yeah, that's kind of all I had for the epilogue. Unless you guys had any more. No, I mean literally, there really wasn't much written in the actual adventure about the kind of what happens at the end. And we can save some of that for the very end of the recap if you want, or if you want to add something now. I think we wanted to give the mace to Mary, Heather's character.
Oh yeah, Mary. We got this mace. Turns out the two like magical items we got at the very end of that dungeon, I took them both because I'm like, hey, armor and weapons. They're both just useless to me because the mace is one-handed and the plate mail is medium armor.
Scale mail.
Well, I can't use armor, so.
Yeah, scale mail. So the mace though should just be better than your sword, just straight up.
Yeah.
It's actually I deleted all the information because I first gave it to Raymond.
Okay.
I think it's a mace +1.
Yeah, if you want to.
I actually don't know if it's.
Hang on, let me open my character sheet.
You might have to go over how we actually add the plus stuff in there because I haven't done that.
Oh yeah, I've done that before with my weapons, so I can tell you what you need to do.
Alright. What's it
All
called?
right, the weapon is called Lightbringer.
Okay.
Do you want description or stats first?
Attack.
It's a +1 mace, which means you get +1 to attack rolls and +1 to damage rolls.
Hang on. You're just gonna have to tell me what to put here.
All right, Chris, help us out with that, as I haven't done the...
What is the attack stat?
Oh, for you,
go into...
normally strength, but you can use
Dexterity,
dexterity, yeah. Because I think that's just what a
Talent.
monk can do.
Yeah, attack stat.
What?
On the plus attack, put 1.
Wait, where do I put that?
It should be right next to the attack stat. It should say
It says
plus
to hit
attack.
5.
Hit on the green tabs at the top. Hit bonuses. Make sure that one's highlighted.
Okay. +1.
+1. And then to hit should
Okay.
fill in. Reaches 5. Damage will be 1d6 on this mace. And then on the plus
is it
damage, also put 1.
Okay.
Okay. So damage dice is
1d6.
6. +1.
Isn't it plus her modifier, or is that included?
That's included. This is just straight the damage of the weapon itself.
Okay.
What is the damage type?
Bludgeoning.
Bludgeoning.
How do you spell bludgeoning? Never mind, I see it.
And then
That
crit,
should be all you
Bonus.
need.
crit damage should be 1d6. Because that's the base dice.
Yes.
Well, it's got another, and then you want to do secondary, I think?
Secondary. For what?
Because it does an extra
No.
1d6 radiant damage to undead creatures. should I put that
Yeah,
somewhere
but
else?
if you do that secondary, it'll always do that.
Okay. Well,
There's under damage. There's alt, and you can put an alt damage reason,
Yep.
but that's just something you'll have to keep track of.
You might have to do what I did, and I just made 2 separate weapon slots.
that might not be a bad idea.
So one is for the rapier itself, and then I have another one for rapier, and I put the sneak attack. So I have to pick which one I'm clicking on each time.
So you could do one
I don't
as
think there's a-
Lightbringer and one as Lightbringer versus Undead.
I don't think there's a way to combine it
Yeah,
into
just do two
just
separate.
one.
Essentially, if you can make it glow as a torch at any time while you're holding it, and then while it's glowing, it deals an extra 1d6 radiant damage to undead creatures.
Okay, so how do I put that in here then?
So copy everything you did on the top one, and then in addition to everything you have, hit secondary, and then you do under damage 1d6, and then type is radiant.
One, each 5. Damage 1d6.
The loots.
Can I go ahead and copy a couple of scrolls into my spellbook?
Sure.
It costs, I think, 50 gold per level of the spell, and then 2 hours per level. So
Okay.
the first level and the second level. So I'll stick 150 gold.
Okay. I believe, yeah. Phandalin should have the resources for that.
Okay.
They just leave that as 0, I guess. And then damage type is radiant. So that's probably the easiest way to do it. So if you're just specifically, and that'll help you remember that it does more damage to undead, because you'll see that as a listing. So essentially, it is a +1 mace, and you can use it as a torch.
Sweet.
Yeah. Should be good for you. The +1 to hit is great.
Yeah. You have a slightly better chance to hit and do damage.
Yeah.
It is crafted after Lathander, the god of dawn, and the head of the mace is shaped like a sunburst and made of solid brass. For description. And yeah, we can go over stuff that you guys can do in the downtime during any of those times in between now and the next session, essentially. And all of them are purely optional. My only stipulation is that you guys do all end up in either don't leave Phandalin or come back to Phandalin for whatever reason.
Mm.
Damn. Okay.
So now you've got, what, a +6?
There's your crit hit. Or your crit damage, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's, yeah.
Thank you.
Uh,
I'm glad it was useful to somebody, because I was very disappointed.
yeah.
I start looking at these.
We don't have a cleric. Only monks can use
Exactly.
maces. And you guys have looted. That was the last bit of loot from the cavern, the mine, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to sell these things, but I don't remember if you have them. I don't know what to do with this breastplate. This dragon guard. No one's
Yeah.
going to be able to use it. Should I sell it?
I'm gonna have to look it up, but I mean, yeah, if you want to sell something that magical, I'm just gonna have to look up how you do that. Essentially, I know in the player handbook it was basically like, usually you don't sell these things, and I was like, well, I'm gonna find out if that's really the case. So hang on to it for now, and then in one of the we don't have to do it on a session. We can just kind of figure it out at some point,
Okay. Figure it out at some point.
and hopefully we can do that.
One thing I
before
was
the
going to
next
do while
one.
we were talking, just for fun, is answer your weight question. Because I'm pretty sure I can handle all this weight, but...
Oh
weight was
yeah,
a question.
the carrying capacity of your character.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to look.
How do you strap that many weapons to you?
Yeah.
Just like Witcher style. I've got...
Even Witcher doesn't carry that many fucking weapons on
No,
him.
he doesn't. So let's say the greatsword and the maul are on my back, like X style.
Okay.
You know, like they can be pulled out the back.
Both
The
two-handed
spears are
weapons in a
just-
giant X style.
Yes. Those spears are just, 4 feet. They could be just strapped to my side. There's a few of those. Talon is strapped to my other side. It's a long sword with scabbard, and the lance
Oh, you
is
have a
straight
lance?
up and down on my back. A
You already have
yeah.
things
In case
on
you
your
got folks-
Nobody give Kalinar
Well,
a
it's-
hug.
It's an X, and then the
probably
lance is
gonna
going
get
straight up and down.
Stabbed. Alright, so your character cannot sit in chairs, basically.
Well, he couldn't. He couldn't already. He's wearing giant fucking plate mail.
I don't know how maneuverable you are.
When he's all strapped, well, he's not. He can't. He can't stealth. He can't. Like the whole. Yeah. He's.
Clang, clang, clang.
Yep. He jumped pretty far though.
Yes, you can. Boots of striding and springing. All right. Anything before we start the recap? All right. So this adventure started out with a classic caravan guard job. Well, first I go back to you guys did an amazing job creating your characters, and I think it worked out really well creating our characters together as a group. And that way you guys got a feel for what each of you can do and what your characters are like and kind of what you wanted to roleplay as well as the kind of abilities you brought to the table. I think that worked a lot better than it did in Shadowrun.
The surprise. Well, I mean, yeah. I think there wasn't that much overlap in Shadowrun, but it was nice to sort of form a party.
I mean, it just didn't feel like you guys ever were too comfortable knowing each other for a good while until finally you kind of learned it organically. And this way, at least we had that one little leg up where there was still some trepidation just with the rules, but in terms of who your characters are and each other, I think that part worked a lot better and it was an easier transition.
That makes sense.
Shadowrun didn't really make sense.
You had the toughest character. Right?
You had a really confusing character.
That still none of us understand how it works.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah. And I still adore Shadowrun setting, but holy crap, those rules! I never, even after running like 4 or 5 adventures, I never felt comfortable with them at all. Whereas D&D, I think by like the 4th session, we barely had to consult the book for anything.
Oh
like it was just the occasional unique thing that came up we had to look up.
Mm-hmm.
And it flowed a lot better. All right, so you start off as caravan guards out of Neverwinter, and you were hired by a dude that had found a map, and he was basically hiring you guys to take supplies down to him in Phandalin. He went ahead, and you guys... I guess I can show the overland map first. Of our adventure. Then you guys turned on the Tribor Trail, and then found a grisly scene.
So grisly.
The murdered horses.
We're sorry, PETA.
Yeah, this was the... A minor screw up on my part. This map is not to scale at all. This is the... If you look at the top, it says 1 square equals 10 feet. Like, whoops.
Oh, really?
So it's supposed to be twice as big, essentially. But, so this is the very first combat encounter, and I was worried because the goblins can get a surprise round off initially. And that can be quite damaging, but thankfully, I think I rolled like shit initiative, and Miri can't be surprised, so it worked out. Like, you guys took a few hits, but nothing catastrophic happened on the outset.
Yeah.
And you guys were able to follow the trail to the north and make your way to the Cragmaw hideout, which was full of goblins. So at this point, what are you guys thinking? You're probably going to try to find your employer who was captured by goblins.
Right. I don't... yeah,
I kept
presumably...
waiting for something to explode.
Like the beginning of the Shadowrun one, just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
blow up.
No trust.
So this
there.
was basically a level 1 dungeon, because you guys literally leveled up to level 2 after this one. And this is
Okay.
very much a mini dungeon, although I think it still had some cool stuff going on for it. You had the sentries outside, which you guys were able to eliminate. You had the wolves in here, chained up, that you guys had to deal with. And then you found this little, like, fissure that you weren't sure how to handle. There was a goblin on this bridge, and I think you stealthily took him out because he acts as a sentry. And there's a trap on this dungeon where they can release, like, a rock and water flows like a raging rapids throughout the cave, and that can like knock you guys back.
Oh.
But you guys came
wow,
in,
cool.
yeah, you guys came in all stealthily and actually killed everybody before they could ever unleash any of that. And then you actually went right, which took you to the boss, and that was a much tougher battle because this is a bugbear, and as you guys know, bugbears can do some serious damage. And I was looking at that, going, "Holy shit! They're supposed to take one of these guys at level 1 with 2 goblins and a wolf." So I was like, "Oh my." Level 1 D&D is super rough. You can't... One of the problems I had playing video games back in the day, and even today, is how fucking weak you are at level 1.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys...
Did the enemies scale up with us as well?
You mean anything that I changed from the adventure, or?
Like was a bugbear when we were at level 1 more difficult or easier than a bugbear?
Oh, no. The only thing that can change is the hit points, and I think specifically he's supposed to have a bunch of hit points because he's like the boss of the dungeon. And you'll find that basically there's a hit point range for each enemy, and I actually do roll for that just to make it more interesting, so you guys can't sit there and completely game the system. Like, okay, I know he's got 20 hit. I know all these ghouls have, 20 hit points, and that's how much it takes.
Right.
So instead, they'll have a range between like 20 and 35 or something. And so you never quite know how much hit points anything has. That being said, do know that anytime you see a named NPC, or somebody that's talking, there's a good chance he's probably just got straight up max hit points for his monster class. And that's usually that's pretty much usually the only thing that makes one of those guys like a mini boss, is they just have more hit points.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the way they balance stuff in 5th edition. But yeah, you guys are able to take him down. I believe he actually fled at the end, and Kalinar ran after him, hunted him down, and chopped his head off.
I hopped down the chute.
Yes.
Yeah, I chased him.
That
and
made
just
you roll
hopped down
for
the
it.
chute.
Yeah. Chased after his ass.
Which, in hindsight, it's a good thing we actually did kill those wolves. Because
Yes.
I imagine just hopping down that chute right there would have been bad news if the wolves...
Surprise! Yeah. And I like the way this dungeon's constructed. There's a lot of little paths going everywhere. It's not just kind of a linear thing.
So, when we got to the other side,
Mm-hmm.
they talked to us about some sort of... when they wanted to make a deal about killing the other one. But I feel like we did that out of order, maybe?
Yeah, that's my fault, just because I didn't know. I was trying to ad-lib, and I was trying to realize that he was going to give you that quest no matter what, and he didn't necessarily know what you guys had just done. So
Yeah.
it felt jarring to you guys, but obviously he's not, he wasn't out there watching the slaughter or anything. There's a river right here. He's
Right.
kind of insulated away from it, so he's like, hey, go kill that big boss guy for me, and we'll talk. And you're like, oh, no, we already killed him. There was an awkward moment where you ran back and got the head, and came back.
Yes,
After
yes.
tossing it into the fire. That was just kind of an opportunity for a fun little role-playing moment, and I think I ended up having Sildar help you a little bit and have him knock him over or something, and then that kind of got everything started. This was also the event of the famous Sexy Goblin illusion play.
That's right.
In the corner. Yeah, that Talus would continue using the illusions to great effect throughout the adventures. But quite a lot of goblins in this cave. You guys dispatched them all. For a level 1 cave, I thought it did a pretty good job of giving you lots of different things going on.
Yeah,
And then-
it was a nice intro dungeon. It wasn't
Yeah.
too mazy in terms of
Mhm.
everywhere led to pretty much 2 different areas.
Right. Yeah, and it actually
I
looks
think we
like...
skipped whatever this pit. I think we just totally skipped this pit every
Yeah,
time.
that's
Never really
yeah.
dealt
That
with
is a
that.
path you can take. I think it's you have to make some kind of strength check. There's loose, you have to climb up escarpments and stuff, and that just lets you
Yeah.
sneak over to the left side before even going to any other part of the dungeon. So, and that's something that was a lot in that Wave Echo Cave too. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of get around and sneak around things. So it's interesting that they just kind of open up to a lot of the dungeons.
Yeah.
Which is neat from a player point of view. From my point of view, it's kind of stressful, though, not knowing, I have to come up with so many contingency plans, and okay, well... especially, and I'll go over this when we do Wave Echo Cave. At that one, I didn't want to just have the bad guy sit in his temple the whole time, like a video game where he's just waiting for you guys. I wanted things to be a little bit more active and response, and that's why I had he sent the Nundro trap at you, but we'll go over that later.
Ah, yes.
So you guys got the treasure... you defeated the bugbear, and more importantly, you rescued Sildar, and Sildar was able to give you guys some important information about kind of what went down, and about basically this goblin tribe had attacked them and kidnapped both of them, but then sent Gundren and the map to a different location. And
Did
so
he
you're...
die?
Sildar?
Yeah.
No, he was your main one of your main contacts. In,
Right.
could he have died?
What would have
yes.
happened if he had died?
He could have. and that would have been a little trickier on my part to try to convey some information. So I was very much hoping that was not going to be the case. But yes, in theory, he could have died. And I was more than willing to kill off Gundren, except you were able to revive him at the time. So NPCs can definitely die. But this is also a world where magic exists and people can go back to life. So.
Right.
You guys went to Phandalin finally and got Sildar healed up, and then rested, and we leveled up to level 2, so we were slightly less horrifyingly squishy. What did you guys?
That's when we start to differentiate our powers.
Yes.
Level 3, I believe, is when you start. Well, I get you for 2. You get yours at 2. I forgot. Everybody else gets theirs at 3 when they kind of come into their own.
Yeah, that first level is all of us are just like hit them with our weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what we can do at this point.
I'm staff man.
Thankfully, level 1 goes by super quick, and level 2 went by relatively quickly. So, because those levels 2 kind of suck. So, how'd you guys think about how I did the town, and how, basically in terms of highlighting specific places to go, and all that? Because I think how I gave you this player map. This does not have any annotations on it, and then you guys actually made these as I kind of pointed out.
Yes.
And I think I literally just listed all the important places and people on this town.
Yeah. And I was just typing out text as we went, just so I could remember.
And you basically spent a solid session just going around to each
collecting quests.
Yeah, you essentially collected like a quest or a piece of information or something from just about every one of these highlighted areas. Do you think that worked better than just letting you guys like wander around, or like what do you think?
Yeah, because I mean, otherwise you're pretty much we're like pointing every house out. Like, can we go in this house? Can we go in this house? Like, if we don't know, we're just gonna have to try everything, or we're gonna miss something.
Did you like having this map, or would it have been easier just to shuffle you guys from one building to another?
No, I like being able to choose where we went next.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it the way you did it. Because what would the alternative be? Where you just said like, now you're walking down the street and you're going into the miners' exchange.
Yeah, essentially. And I'm basically talking about just because the next adventure has a town that is bigger than this, and it's set up the same, where it's got like a shit ton of buildings and places, but only like, a fourth of them actually do anything.
Right.
And then there are other small towns. And there are other small towns that don't have a map, and they're literally just like the inn is like the only location of note. And it's not really designed for you to like really explore around the town. It's just like you can stop here, rest, and then here's some like either rumors, information, or a quest or two, and they can just all be found at like this inn in this town. So
yeah, having a bit of guidance in towns is nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
we learned that the hard way with Shadowrun. Like, if you don't direct us, we're just gonna sit there. We're like,
It would be nice, maybe, as opposed to just one big info dump. Like, I'm going to list off the buildings, and here they are, and here are the names. It might be. I don't know if this is even possible for me to, like, if certain buildings aren't applicable right now, but they are later, for us to find out about them later.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, for them not to be part of that initial info dump, but for later on, for them to be like, oh yeah, you need to go to this building over here. This is the blank.
Okay.
As opposed to like,
maybe have it be more generic, like it flows better versus just like, here you go.
Here's everything. You'll deal with it. You'll deal with each one as they come up. That kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's awkward just trying to mesh it in with the like immersion of the story, and just for me to just say, and there's this building and this building and this building, and then the only one you feel like is important to explore is the tannery.
Right.
But the alternative is you guys just go in there, talk to somebody, realize it was a waste of time, and then walk out. So I don't know.
And the trouble with us, I think, is that we'll be in there for a while, figuring out it's not important.
Yeah.
We'll carry on a conversation or like try to like look around like
Right.
after 10 minutes. Like, all right, guys, there's nothing here. Let's go.
The reason I'm focusing on this is because a big part of the next adventure is the fact that there is a town where a bunch of shit happens, but 70% of it is for level like 1 and 2 people that I'm gonna eliminate. So the problem is we have this big town with a lot of stuff that is not applicable to you guys and your adventure at all. So I'm probably going to end up having this same big, it'll be a giant map, but there are only going to be like 4 or 5 things that you're going to care about. There is going to be 1 or 2 that will come up later that maybe I can just hold off or something.
What I think might be helpful, and this is kind of you gamifying it a little bit, is if if there's buildings that have nothing in them because, or if there's like a building that we might find useful but has nothing of value in it because it was all low-level stuff, it might be useful for us to like if we try to go in there, for you to sort of cut us off and say, you go in, you have a nice conversation, and you see nothing. The end. You know what I mean? Like, not let us roleplay it.
Yeah.
And you go in, Kalinor offends someone, you leave.
Montage a little bit, as I say.
Just so we're not, carrying on conversations with a bunch of people that have just nothing to give us.
Sure.
Or give hints like you walk in and see nothing of interest. Nothing at all.
Right, yeah.
Nothing at all.
I need
These
like a
people
stock.
don't seem interesting.
When it's like an adventure game and you're just like clicking on the same thing, it's like a stock like thing that the narrator is telling you. Like, that didn't do anything. So in terms of our recap, you guys got a bunch of quests as you were walking around. You met like the town master, and he gave you the quest about the orcs. There was the orchard guy who gave you the quest about the necromancer with the zombies. There was the acolyte chick that gave you the quest for the banshee, and then you guys got the tea, and then finally, and I think I just had you guys at one point. You went into this farm, and you're like, "Wait, what are we supposed to ask you about?" And I was like, "I think I basically said, ask them about like the Cragmaw hideout or something, because technically what you were supposed to have been asking everybody is like, do you know anything about the Cragmaw? I think we kind of forgot about that as we were getting quests. And then she led you to the druid at Thundertree. But before we did all that, you guys were accosted in the streets by a band of ruffians that was basically the town's like standing militia, although they were just kind of I picture like Tombstone and like the cowboys with the red sashes, just kind of like an evil group that had set up in town that nobody was with.
Exactly. That's kind of what they came across.
And thankfully, you guys took the bait pretty well. You were definitely designed to go to the Redbrand hideout first because that was a level 2 dungeon, and you guys definitely followed suit with that. And I think it helped actually having them attack you as a primary motivation. I think you guys went to the tap house and talked to them about it, which that was set up in the adventure where I had a choice between either if you guys stopped in the tap house, I could have the attack there, or I could have just them attack you in the streets. I was like, well, I'm just gonna go for the streets. And then you guys were basically pointed to. I think a couple people were able to point you to the Tresendar Manor on the east side of town, and specifically, it's pretty easy to find. Like, there's a cellar entrance. Although, interestingly, there is another entrance that I basically omitted because it sounded like it would have been too easy for you guys to find if I'd done it as written.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's... and by the way, this is all Fog of War is lifted, so you guys can just see the maps.
Yeah.
So that path you guys are in right now, you guys actually took this path out south, and it, emptied out into, this clearing kind of outside of town. That was a tunnel that the son of one of the farmers can tell you, he saw, a bugbear enter, this cave while he was down there playing. And he could just straight up, take you to this entrance and let you in that way. I was like, that sounds a little easy to do. And I was trying to think of some like clever way of like rewarding you guys if somehow like maybe I could have like rescue him. Like I was like, I don't know. I like the traditional entrance better, so I just eliminated that whole thing.
Maybe it would have required like really high like perception checks, like to notice the kid's nervous, and then a really high persuasion check to get the kid to talk.
Yeah, I was trying to figure all that, but I was
like,
but what if like you guys miss all these checks, and then it's like, well, now what do I do? Like, now it's just
don't worry about it. Then we missed it.
Yeah.
It sucks for you because there's a lot of stuff that you could feasibly set up that we would just fail and it would never come to pass, so you'd never get to actually play with the thing you set up.
There's a good example of that whenever you did not go in that one cave at one point. I'll go into that later.
Oh, yeah, the owlbear thing?
Yes.
You're like, why would we fuck with an owlbear?
Yeah. So you guys start at this entrance. You rooted around. You got attacked by these guys. Pretty easy fight. And then there was the pit, which was amazing because you had so many issues with this pit. Trying to get across on the right side.
Oh, yes.
It was the classic, like, rug covering a hole pit.
Mm-hmm.
And Galinar almost, like, died.
Kethra was the one who stepped on it first, right? And she just dodged back?
Yes.
But then I think
she
I just
made the
almost
roll,
fell in.
and you tried to cross it and had them tie a rope and hang on to you, and you failed miserably and fell, and they luckily were able to haul your ass back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the brilliant idea of tying the rope once one person made it across.
Yes,
tie it across.
this was the little drawn line we have using the rope. That was a fun bit. Like, not all challenges are just killing people, so that's always a nice little thing when you guys have to figure something out like that. Then there were some skeletons in here, which you guys are pretty obviously certain they were like skeletons near sarcophagus. Those are up to no good. Those were easy to dispatch. You had some guards in here, which I believe you guys tried to sneak in here, but the guards were aware of the fighting of the skeletons, so they were actually able to ambush you. And you rescued a woman and her children, who was the wife of the woodworker, who you guys had explored, like his house, and he was died. And she would give you a quest, which I liked that part. You rescued somebody, and they reward you by telling you to find an item in some other dungeon, which is pretty cool. Which was the Thundertree, like, amulet.
Oh, okay.
Which is just a treasure, it wasn't a magic item, but otherwise, I don't. It would have been like really, really hard for you to find that item. I don't think it would even let you. And then, in order to make it to the next part, you have to find the secret door, which I believe you guys found because you were just like trying to percept like this door and the area around here, and you guys were able to see it with that check.
Oh, right.
And then we got to one of my favorite moments was the Nothic in this cave, which was a creepy. In fact, I don't think I ever showed you his picture. I'll show you that now. So this was the guy that was like talking to you guys in your heads, and I used that creepy like repeating voice of like different cadences and stuff.
Yeah, the telepathic guy was
and one of his powers is literally he like rolls a deception check, and then he can like glean like know information about you. And he just seemed like a really fun monster to operate. And I thought that whole scenario went cool until it was basically time for him just to attack, and then he just kind of went down pretty quickly. But it is a possibility to work with him and turn him against the Redbrands.
Really?
Yeah, he has no loyalty to the Redbrands. They just feed him by throwing corpses into his pit. So you could totally either gain safe passage past him by like promising to throw Redbrand corpses down there, or even like tell him to snack on any Redbrands that come through. There were a couple different ways you could have worked with him, but
do you still get experience for that?
Oh yeah, you'll get the same experience.
Okay. How do we convince them to work against them? Just strike up a conversation?
Yeah, through role-playing, and then I probably would have had a check at some point, like a persuasion check, or intimidation, or deception, depending on kind of what you guys were doing.
Would
kind of the same
Galinar be able to do that?
I don't know if his character would have allowed him to do that, because this is a very evil creature.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think so. I said there's a lot of stuff that I feel like the way I'm roleplaying Kalinar, we're just not gonna mess with. 'Cause
Yeah, you guys would have to
A lot of,
really.
like,
You guys would probably
people-
have to convince Kalinar with like a check or something that like this is for the
Yeah.
greater. This is for the greater good or something.
Any of those situations where it's two bad guys and you're having to choose one of the bad guys, we're not gonna do it. Kalinar's just gonna try to kill them both.
Now you were able to convince the spectator, but that's also because the spectator isn't. I don't think a straight up evil
Yeah,
creature. It's more like it was just a guardian at that point. So
Yeah.
that was like the one instance that you.
I just had no evidence of him committing a crime. He was
There
he
you go.
was.
Technically, that wizard hadn't committed a crime either, unless I guess you just consider necromancy in general like.
Yeah, undeath
thing.
is a crime.
Yeah, there you go. So after this is when you guys did an odd thing and kind of split the party and opened multiple doors at once, which was odd. And I fucked up because I opened the wrong room, and I got confused
yeah.
because there were multiple doors happening. And this ended up being a really big, painful fight, and I was worried for you guys because you unleashed a couple bugbears and then a bunch of Redbrands. And I'm pretty sure I forgot that Redbrands actually get 2 melee attacks per character, which would have made that much harder. But you were able to persevere, mainly because you fought it out in this hallway in the northwest that turned into a fucking bloodbath. But that also meant only a certain amount of guys could get to you, so... fun fact, you can find Glassstaff here if you don't go through this room first. Because that rat is his familiar, and as soon as that rat sees you, he knows you're there, and he takes off to this secret door and runs out of the dungeon.
Did we even find that secret door?
No, I don't believe so. Basically,
Okay.
there's a secret door here and here, I believe. That's what these like stairs are.
Wow.
It's like a back
I
door.
was wondering what that stupid rat was doing.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
his.
the
That's
rat
basically his
disappeared.
familiar, and that was its job is to be like a warning system. So it seems like it would be extremely hard because you had to have, for some reason, randomly explored this door over here and inspected it and realized the secret door was there, and then follow the stairs down and see the secret door here, or somehow like sneak past the rat and make it to the door and open it and then find Glassstaff in there.
Yeah, I was trying to. So the rat just, I fed it and then it just ran off, right?
I think
Or something.
something happened to it and it disappeared. I forgot how we resolved that.
Yeah, it did just disappear. Remember that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wanted
but
to
we were like in a
tease.
puddle of smoke. We were all fixated on that rat.
I wanted to tease that it was magical in nature. I didn't have any good way of necessarily doing that.
Mm.
But plus, there was all this fighting right here. Like he would have fucking
Right.
heard all that commotion. So
Things were happening.
you did find his bug out bag though,
Did
which
we-
was the loot in here in the water. You specifically like investigated the water and found like the set of traveling clothes and the potion of invisibility and all that. That was Glassstaff's bug out bag.
Oh.
He's designed to,
So we-
if he escapes, he checks that as
deprived
he
him.
leaves to like grab it as his like escape.
We deprived him of his escape supplies. That's nice.
Yes. And fun fact, and I'll go over this later also, the adventure does not tell you what then happens with Glassstaff after he leaves. So what I did was a completely original
Really?
thing by me.
Oh.
um,
So if,
he is
in
not in the
original
adventure again.
if he escapes,
If
he's
he
just gone
escapes,
forever.
yeah, they just give you some hints like he might show up later. Like that's all they say. It's like it's
Oh,
up
wow.
to the DM to figure out what to do with him essentially.
Okay.
And I read a bunch of
Would we
stuff
have been able
online.
to take him?
Defeat him?
If we
I think
fought
so. Mainly because I wouldn't have had him join like this fight. Like he was designed to like run away, or if you guys had like snuck up on him and just if he was the only one you were attacking, I think you would have been able to kill him. Yeah. Especially, I mean, if you outnumber anybody, it seems like you guys have a big advantage.
Uh-huh.
And then other than that, you got Droop, which was kind of fun for role-playing opportunity, but was kind of a pain in the ass to keep up with, so we kind of did what we did, which was turn him into this, like,
Yeah.
video game, like, AI companion that followed you around but nobody else acknowledged, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. after we learned the limitations of Droop, he became much less interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to. Yeah, I didn't want to make him too much of
anything with him?
a
Yeah.
too much of a thing.
What we should have done is, in hindsight, every time you use Mage Hand, you're not actually using Mage Hand. You're having Droop go do something. Yeah.
The one time there's
So
a
just
fireball
replace
trap,
that-
he just
replace that cantrip.
explodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys cleaned out all of Redbrand pretty handily. Oh, and you also found the Talon Sword in here, which the book says you only find it if you're down there. And I was like, there's no way they're going to go down there. They just lit all those corpses on fire. That the whole thing is like super undeath scary. So I had you guys actually see the chest from up here because I wanted to give you loot.
Oh,
Like,
right.
it seemed not cool for you to just burn it all up and leave it behind. So
Yeah.
I actually let you guys find that before crawling down.
Okay.
And especially since you didn't get glass staff at this point since you ran away. So I was like, well, I definitely want to make sure they get something. After that, you return to Phandalin as heroes already for defeating the Redbrands, and you leveled up to 3. So 1 and 2 went by pretty quick. You guys made it to level 2 after the 3rd session, and then the Redbrand hideout looks like it took about 3 sessions in total, although one of the first half of the one session was getting more quests in Phandalin. And then you leveled to 3 on session 7. And then after that, you had the choice of where to go out of all your side quests.
All the side quests.
All the side quests, and you were level 3.
So many side quests.
Yeah, and the majority of this adventure was definitely built for level 3. So this is the point that really opens up because you guys can literally go to either Thundertree, Conyberry, Old Owlwell, or Wyvern Tor in any order. And at first, and I listened to your thought processes, and you guys wanted to go after Gundren, which was great. And then you decided that the best lead you had for that was a Thundertree, and that was true. You guys got after Thundertree, you had the location of Cragmaw Castle, and then once you found the location of Cragmaw Castle, you avoided it and went to all the other places. And like now that we know where he is, now we're gonna let him rot.
It's very video game thinking of us. It's
Yeah.
we get to where what we feel is that sort of
Is the
like
end.
if you go through this door, you won't be able to go back.
Right.
You know,
We do all
like
the
we're
side
afraid of
quests
going
now.
past that point. Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine, and that's why I didn't want to have Gundren just be dead and gone already. Like I did want to have at some point I do want to suspend it and make sure there's events still going to be exciting, even though he's been there for like weeks or whatever of
Yeah.
game time.
He's
I was a bit
fine.
worried because Thundertree was obviously the biggest and longest of the dungeons we had done, so we were immediately going into this giant place. But I liked because it was an outdoor dungeon, which was a lot different also.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And thankfully this was a map I was able to... Well, I guess this one is in the book, but the problem is a couple of the maps are not scaled correctly, and thankfully some people made some maps, which I thought looked pretty good. So this place was basically destroyed, a destroyed village, and it was haunted by ash zombies and little plant creatures called twig blights, which come in packs of like a dozen. Which also seemed to really suck, though. I don't think they ever really did much damage or anything. They were no Sturges.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, exactly.
So you met Radoth pretty much right off the bat, and I played him up like an old man. And so in the book, he actually just gives you the quest to take out the dragon, which I was like, that's bullshit. Cause
To take out the dragon?
To take out the dragon, or to drive it off, which essentially, if you reduce the dragon to half health, it flies away.
Okay.
So it's the same thing as defeating it.
Well,
but
I will say, if we had had a quest to fight the dragon, we would have been way more confident going into that fight.
But I didn't
Yeah.
want you to be, because that dragon would have fucking smoked you all. So I was like, I don't want to give them a quest to kill the dragon. Like, that's going to be awful if they just go in and then just get
okay.
completely demolished and be like, what the hell, we got a quest for it. So I was like, fuck
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Instead, I
How
want to
much-
have him... Go ahead.
I was gonna say how much, or if you can answer it later, how much XP we would have gotten if we did.
A bunch. And the dragon does have more loot that you guys did not get. There was a magic axe. And
Oh man,
a bunch of coins.
Magic axe.
Yeah. But fucking dragon.
Wait. Where was this magic axe at? Inside of him?
No, he had his little hoard, and then
Oh, that's right. He never left his room. Yeah.
I mean, he did at the
He
end.
came out
but
briefly.
He also told you guys to
Yeah.
fuck off at the end.
Yeah.
So it says if you just drive him away, you divide two. He's worth 2,000 experience. Divided by 4. So that's a shit ton. And then it actually
Yeah.
says, given their level, the characters aren't likely to slay the dragon, but it is worth 3,900 XP. So
Wow.
Crap.
yeah. But that's insane. Like, his challenge level is basically a challenge level 7.
Yeah. I mean, the very first thing he did was breathe acid on me and take me down to like 2 hit points from full. So
Yes.
I was
So-
pretty much done at that point.
If you guys had all been level 5, he would have been a hard fight, but not a deadly fight. At level
Okay.
4, he was about as difficult as that Flame Skull fight. So,
Okay.
the way, in terms of how the system works, he is about as deadly as the Flame Skull plus 8 zombies was. And you guys fought it at level 3, which means it was just beyond awful. And yeah, he shoots fucking acid in a cone breath. So I did a bunch of modifications here. I had the druid give you the quest to actually cleanse Thundertree by killing the zombies and the twig blights in like a day.
Yeah.
And that was not in the book at all. That was just like, well, this is an excuse for them to actually do this thing. And in the book, it was just like, oh yeah, he'll tell the location of Cragmaw Castle to them as soon as they ask, and then he'll also tell them, hey, will you kill this dragon? It's like, well, I'm going to let the location be the reward of doing this quest to actually go through and basically defeat the dungeon.
Because couldn't we just left? Like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Thanks for the location.
Presumably. This one didn't have quite as much going on in terms of like traps and stuff. It did have the giant spiders in the middle, which is pretty easily telegraphed because there's webs everywhere. Which they actually are surprisingly not that strong. And then the cultists, I also did a ton of stuff that aren't in the book.
Oh, really?
I can't remember. Did you meet them first in their building or?
Yeah.
Was it?
It was
that way?
outside the building.
That's right. They were like creeping up on you.
Yeah, like down at the bottom right.
Lower right,
somewhere.
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
because
we saw
again,
them watching us.
that was another example where it's like, this is weird if I just have them like chilling in this house waiting for you guys to like come in. So I had them talk to you guys, and you guys actually didn't kill them, but also didn't want to work with them. So I thought that was an interesting
Right.
stalemate. And then you guys basically went back to Radoff and then took a rest, and then I had... Oh, and you guys wanted to explore the dragon then in the north. And at that point, I had the cultists actually already set up with their plan, which was to basically have you guys come with them to meet with the dragon, and then they would betray you to the dragon.
Oh,
Which
really? 'Cause I
none
never-
of
I
none
don't
of that is in the
remember-
book. That is all me just coming up with something to happen.
What do the cultists do normally in the original story?
They basically
they're just enemies.
Well, they just sit there. It says they're not interested in finding anyone, prefer to be left alone. He hopes to rise through the ranks by earning the allegiance of the Green Dragon. If the characters talk to them, he wants to treat with the dragon, and then he suggests an alliance. And he says, it does say he really plans to offer the characters to the dragon as part of his tribute, and if a fight ensues, the cultists side with the dragon.
Ah, okay.
But what I had to do was actually write all that out in terms of like dialogue and what was going to happen. And
Oh,
luckily,
wow,
you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
kind of followed suit. You basically followed north. I just had the dragon cultists like try to be really weird. They were like standing around, just not moving, motionless. At one point, you intimidated one of them to like run off, which was funny. And then you guys met with them, and then that's when I kind of used the dragon talk to and I think only Kalinar even understood what was going on. As essentially
Being said.
What was being said? Essentially, the cultists were just offering him things. I don't remember if the cultists ever actually turned on us before things went bad. So remember, they were just sort of trying to convince him to join their dark god or whatever. I was the one kind of being the dick there, who was like, don't listen to these pitiful mortals or some gibberish like that.
You were trying to talk to the dragon after him, and I did have you roll some kind of charisma check, and you failed it basically. And that's when I had,
right. Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's what spurred the dragon to actually attack. And then the cultists do side with the dragon. I think one or two of them did actually end up attacking you guys, but you guys ended up basically killing the cultists pretty quickly. While the dragon didn't give a fuck about the cultists, it just was going to kill everybody.
Right.
And then because this was going to go south really quickly, you had and you were wanting to talk to the dragon too. Like you were realizing this might have just been a big misunderstanding. And you talked to him and then rolled another check, and then at that point you did succeed, so I had the dragon kind of basically nod and tell you guys to fuck off.
That's right. So I remember what I said to him actually though. At that point, that convinced him to.
Like we are not your real enemies here. Like they were like.
Oh yeah, I told him that we're the ones that cleared out the undead.
Yeah,
that's what it was. I was like admonishing him. I was like, "Is this any way to treat the people who cleared your forest of the undead?" And at that point, because I was successful in the check, he was like, "Fine, but don't ever come back." And then he ate that cultist and left.
Yeah, so I think all the cultists ended up dying, and then you guys ended up escaping a dragon fight. But it's on the one hand, I can see why they wanted to include a dragon here. This is the starter adventure. You got to have a dragon in there for Dungeons and Dragons. On the other hand, it's super easy to get in a fight with this dragon, and I don't see any way you would be able to survive it at all.
What would we do at that point?
Die? If we died?
Yeah.
I don't know what happens at that point.
You could write it in that you wake up and you're like all, captured by him and your horde, and he maybe gives you some task to complete. Yeah, I mean, I could work with it somehow to not end the adventure there, or I don't know, some other dragon flies overhead and he has to fly off and get in a dragon. You guys wake up and there's dragon battle going on above you, and you have to sneak off or something. But if it was a total party wipe, I probably wouldn't have just a game over screen.
Right.
But
game over,
hopefully you guys would just learn a lesson there. Don't fucking fuck with dragons for a while at least. But he did have a substantial treasure hoard. Now, I did let Kethra steal those diamonds because she remembered specifically to use Mage Hand as you guys were fleeing. One of her turns during combat was to use Mage Hand to grab the diamonds, which I believe nobody was paying attention at that point, so they did grab them. But the dragon had a shit ton of money. He also had scrolls and a magic +1 battle axe.
Oh.
That did more damage against
that would have been great.
Plants.
Plants, okay.
But, yeah. I was like, well, I'm not going to let this dragon kill you, but I'm not also going to give you this treasure. So.
Right. That's the trade-off.
That's the trade-off.
You don't get killed by a dragon. You don't get his loot.
Now, Thundertree took us 4 weeks, I believe. This was a giant dungeon.
It was. We were just sort of wandering around building to building the entire time.
Yeah, it took us 4 straight weeks, with the last one being mostly that big dragon cultist moment. And then from there, so we finally beat Thundertree. And you guys knew the location of Cragmaw Castle at this point, and then you decided to basically take care of all the others. And you were sitting there deciding that was the finale, and I knew it was not. But I also knew it still didn't really matter the order of events you took, so I was just going to let you guys suss that out.
Yeah.
So you guys went to Conyberry, which was a weird, non-fight location. It was literally just basically meet with an NPC and do a, don't act like dicks and do, one charisma check, and then you get your reward done. That was a super easy quest.
Which,
thing.
In hindsight, because of the way she was treating us, I didn't identify her as some sort of evil undead, and I didn't act accordingly. In hindsight, should I have? Are banshees like straight up evil, undead creatures?
Hard to say,
at the time,
really.
I was like, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, it just depends. Do you just hate all undead, or do you think some undead are just maybe like cursed or something? And
yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Thankfully, I mean, I didn't have any stats for the Banshee at all. I don't even know what a Banshee level
So
is.
you weren't supposed to fight her.
I think
Yeah.
they're pretty. I think they're pretty hard, actually.
Yeah.
But no, you were definitely. In fact, if you attack her at all, she's designed to disappear, and you just don't complete the quest.
Oh, okay.
She's a CR rating 4, so at level 3, that would have been a hard fight, but not a insurmountable one.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then you guys went to Old Owlwell, which was the location of the Necromancer with shit ton of zombies.
That's right.
And this is one that there is not a map of in the book, and thankfully I found somebody that had made a map that could use that.
Oh. Did you have to make your own maps on any of these, or did you were able to find everything?
No, I didn't make any maps. I found everything, yeah. Even the little bitty like campsite ones, I just found stock pictures. I was not about to build any more maps after Shadowrun.
Okay, yeah.
Which the problem with that is you do run into those problems where like Wave Echo Cave, you guys are like, "What's this sexy skeleton?" I'm just like, you know, like I didn't put all these little details in there, you fuckers.
Don't worry about the sexy skeleton.
Yeah. There's a lot of extra flair on some of these maps that doesn't really matter. The visual aid is never as important as what I tell you, basically. So this was an example of I failed to properly incorporate any of your backstories or characters or anything into the adventure, mainly because I just had my work cut out for me, just trying to learn the rules and get the published adventure in there, and also be modifying some things. But this one gave me an easy opportunity because literally this NPC is a Red Wizard of Thay. So I was like, well, fuck, Talus was involved in those people,
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, I'll just have
Talus
him
was
know this guy.
in a bind.
Yeah.
He didn't want to kill him, but he also didn't want him blabbing to everyone else where he was. And he didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know how Talus would have resolved that if Kalinar wasn't there.
Right, yeah, to basically pull the trigger.
Give him an easy out, yeah.
Yeah. Talus still likes to feel good about himself and solve his problems.
Yeah, and I think I was going to give you
And
the
none of
option.
us ever really thought to like follow up with Talus on that after the fact, did we?
No.
Like, what the fuck was that about?
That's kind of something I wish you guys would do a little more of, too, is be able to follow up with each other about these kind of events. Like, occasionally it comes up, but
Yeah.
usually you guys drop it pretty quick. But, so yeah, I was going to give you the option of, he was going to, like, accept a bribe, essentially, to not, like, tell his superiors about you, and then he was going to even accept a bigger bribe to try and, like, say that he found you and killed you. And,
But at that point, I would have had to convince everyone else to pool our money to do that.
yeah. Counter was not about to work with this unscrupulous individual.
No, and
He was an asshole, but he technically wasn't evil. He just, I mean,
Yeah.
necromancy is not evil to the Red Wizards at all. It's just a form of magic.
but necromancy is evil to Tyr. Would be my counter argument to that.
I mean, yeah, there's
That-
plenty of
and
people that see
that
him.
and asking
Everything
a
is
fucking,
evil to Tyr.
That's true. Also, asking a fucking, crime executing paladin to commit a crime and bribe a dude, that wasn't gonna fly. That was never gonna fly.
So yeah, so technically this was an optional battle. You did not have to fight and kill him, and in fact, it says to reward I think half XP if you just like parlay with him. And if you do, and I even teased it. I was like, "You're not the orcs or something," and he could have given you the quest also to go take out the orcs for him, which you guys also just wanted to kill him. So This ended up being a
We're a bunch of
giant
bloodthirsty people.
zombie fight that Fog Cloud worked out really well. And I think the entire session was basically just this one fight, essentially, after that role-playing. And Fog Cloud worked out very, very well in this case, because those zombies were just taken
Fog
out.
Cloud has been way more useful than I thought it would.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll be looking into that, because I
It was
think
the
I've
MVP
been
spell.
I've been handling that a bit incorrectly, but it's still a very useful spell, yeah, especially for just taking people out and basically just shifting the dynamic of the battlefield quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I first got it, I was like, hey, I could just take out some archers or someone.
Yeah,
They had to force them to do melee, but nope, just changes the entire battle.
yeah.
Yes.
Creates a big negative
Everything.
zone.
Yeah.
I think you guys attempted to interrogate him and then executed this guy after he was down. So, like heroes. And he had some loot on him too. He had like that +1 ring and a bunch of jewels and scrolls and stuff. So that was
That ring
Basically-
has been very useful.
yeah. So this ended up being a straightforward fight, and then the Wyvern Tor one, which is where you went next, was designed as a straightforward fight, which you guys never even explored this cave. You just ran in there, upset them, and then ran out.
Let me see. We
Was it
didn't
anything to explore?
yeah, we didn't go in. I feel like we went in just to
I
just
think
to, like,
afterwards you did
Oh, after.
to
Yeah.
loot it, but when you first got here, Kethra just ran up, shot an arrow at a guy, missed, and ran out. And basically you just like kicked the hornet's nest. And then
Yes.
you guys waited outside of the cave for them to come out.
That's right.
And sadly, my cool big... What is that noise?
That's Raymond.
Oh. Hey man, you're watching TV.
Just got in his car again.
Raymond.
Raymond, we can hear your radio.
It's not letting me mute him either. Oh, there he goes.
There he goes.
Alright, and I had my big scary ogre, which was fun, but then he came out, and you guys just
Yeah.
unleashed hell on him, and I don't think he did anything.
That was the
There's
plan, though, because we
Yeah.
were like, we knew there was something bad in there, and we were like,
It was like the first two wizards you had, they just were immediately put to sleep.
Yeah.
Like the first few bosses that you're able to control are just died immediately or
Yeah.
incapacitated.
Yeah, the Hamun Koss tried to do something to you, used inspiration to basically make your saving throw, and then you immediately slept him. And then I
Yeah.
think you guys did the same thing to Glassstaff whenever you fought him later. I think the Flame
yeah.
Skull was the first time I was able to fucking like use any kind of
You know,
boss.
I was feeling really sorry for you up until the flame skull.
yeah, and he's like,
Yeah.
fuck this.
You're
We're
like,
gonna
"Oh,
stop
shit."
everything we can stop.
Yeah.
God, that damn flame school.
So this ended up being a pretty easy fight because you guys killed that ogre, then the orcs got to you, and then with 2 sleep spells, you pretty much took them all out. And as we've discovered, orcs are actually not that powerful. So this was an incredibly easy fight for how many guys there were. And you guys did set it up pretty well. I mean, that was probably the best tactic, was instead of walking in, weapon swinging, just wait for them to come to you and then hit them. And this was just a very straightforward, like, one-room dungeon, essentially, and I don't even think it had much loot in it. Just a bunch of dudes to kill. And this is another one that this map does not exist in the adventure. It's just like, this is just a one cave area, and thankfully I found somebody that made this giant map that was exactly kind of described Wyvern, this cave area. So like, I'm just going to use this map. So I did not have to make a single map for this adventure because I was able to find these. And that is a big advantage to doing like D&D and a published adventures, because you can share these
Right.
resources.
Yeah.
And a bunch of these are like official ones that are printed. So after this, let's see, where are we? We were in Tor. We returned to Phandalin and rested up and turned in a bunch of side quests. Got rewards, and then you finally went to Cragmaw Castle. But then I unleashed my... Oh, well, let's talk about that cave. So, you did have to find Wyvern Tor, and basically the first time you didn't find it, and I had you stumble upon a cave with tracks going in, you rolled like a natural 20 on your fucking like wilderness check, so I was like, well, you know, those are exactly what those are. Those are owlbear tracks. And you realize, like, I'm not gonna fuck with that.
Oh right.
That
Yes.
was my trying to insert a random mini dungeon, like a one-room dungeon, into the adventure of my creation. You guys completely skipped it.
The one thing you make yourself.
So, what I was gonna do, in fact,
Do you have it to look at?
I do, yeah. Which means I can't use it now in the future, but that's all right.
Well, you probably could. We probably will not recognize it,
Oops, I meant to turn off.
in all honesty.
Okay. So it was just an owlbear den.
So I was gonna have him be asleep when you came in, and there was gonna be a magic cloak in this pile of bodies, and you would have had to basically like stealth over bones and not like crunch too much, or you wake the owlbear and be able to steal it. Although you guys probably would have fucking used like mage hand or something. I probably would have made it a little too heavy for mage hand. But I was going to give you this magic cloak, probably like a +1 cloak of protection, and then have this fight be semi-optional, although you also could have like pissed him off. But you guys ended up fighting an owlbear in Cragmaw Castle, and I mean, they're strong, but again, just one creature, like, you know, it's not...
That's kind of our bread and butter, because we've all got like really high
You can all like
power
surround,
attacks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So... that was just my thought of throwing in a random thing in there to give you guys one more piece of loot in a cool scenario, but you skipped that cave entirely, so...
Well, don't ask us to murder natural wildlife.
If you ever go back to that session, now you know if I ever sound like a little disappointed and sad.
Yeah.
Whatever session that was. I'm like, oh, alright. So anyway, we returned... Well, yeah, and then I had to give you... I was just going to tease that there was something in there, but then you rolled a natural 20. I was like, well, I guess I got to tell you there's fucking owlbear tracks. I probably wouldn't fuck with that either. So you guys made it... You guys returned to Phandalin, and then you went out to Cragmaw Castle, and then this was my other big original thing, is I was going to have... There are notes in Cragmaw Castle to say that outside of Cragmaw Castle there is a possible returning warband that can return home just as you're leaving, which has that Targar bloodsword named Hobgoblin, and then like some other hobgoblins and wolves. And it's just supposed to be like you can reason with him, basically talk him out of a fight by saying, hey, you can be the leader of the Cragmaws now, or just fight them. I was like, okay, that seems weird though if you're leaving a dungeon then you spring this like fight on them. Then I was like, I'm going to integrate this with Glassstaff and turn this into a hobgoblin camp you guys find outside of Cragmaw Castle.
Ah, okay.
So this was also an original thing. And this time I gave you guys a chance to basically sneak up on a group and kind of plan your attack and everything, which, as far as I could tell, the main plan of attack was just casting Sleep Alive.
Yep. A whole bunch of sleep spells.
Which worked pretty well. And I inserted a bit of role-playing here to make it like Glassstaff was like allied with the Cragmaws, but none of them liked each other that much. And he was trying to like basically just get protection from them since his thing fell apart, and Targar was just going to capture him and turn him over to the king. And I wasn't really worried about how much time had passed. I still wanted this to go off, so I had him be still outside of Cragmaw Castle.
Okay.
And yeah, gave you guys a chance to deal with him, but since you slept everybody, it was pretty easy to get him unconscious and captured, and then take his prized glass staff, which was a really cool piece of loot.
Yeah.
Really useful.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot of use out of it so far.
Yeah, it's like not only can I cast shield and mage armor, but who cares? But I don't have to use up a spell slot for shield.
Yeah.
That's a good bunking tool.
Bonk.
Yeah.
So this is interesting, because now we're going to look at Cragmaw Castle, which you guys have only ever seen about half of.
Oh, that's right. We skipped a lot of it.
We didn't do that quest to get his gear.
We didn't do the quest. Yeah, we never got his gear.
Oh, my bad. Turn this stuff off. There we go.
Wow.
It's a lot of things there.
We just did like the
More stuff.
eastern third. We only
Yeah,
did a
so
third of this dungeon.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I was like, wait, is this the right path or is this the path? And I was like, well, if you're specifically coming at it from the south. I was like, well, I'm gonna have you come up on this path then. And yeah, and it looks like this is like a big murder path, and it is. Like they can basically see you through the arrow slits coming, so they can kind of start attacking you, and then you just slowly wake up the whole damn place.
Right.
And instead, you guys went through this side and basically took the exact route you needed to take to get to the boss, without even necessarily even looking at where you needed to go. You guys basically went in a northeasterly direction. Or you did at one point open the owlbear door, which is funny. You're like, this probably leads outside, and you open it up like, there's an owlbear in here, fuck me.
Yeah.
Which, funny enough, the adventure does specifically stay, if you just get out of the owlbear's way, or essentially just run away, it basically just runs past you guys and attempts to escape. But you have to basically like run away from it in a different direction. Like if it will attack you if you're in its way. But it is designed to just it wants to escape the castle more than anything.
How do we know that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of these things you just kind of have to play it by ear, I guess, and just kind of come up with crazy solutions that could happen. But and obviously I would try to adapt to any crazy things, like the whole smelter thing with the skull. That was really neat. I just let that happen. But yeah, so you guys ended up just going straight to the boss in this one, and there were a bunch of rooms you could take. I did have... I let you guys basically get there, and then until the boss was levitated and then was able to climb around, and then I had him shout, and then that did wake up one of the rooms, which was the cafeteria over here, full of goblins.
Right.
I was like, because at some point it gets dumb if literally everybody's just sitting in the room waiting for something to happen. Like, these dungeons are, like, you know, full of creatures that respond to things.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did have that whole group like erupt and go, and you guys took them all out basically. And then you had the crazy doppelganger lady that basically just worked for Nesnar the Black Spider, and that was a fun moment of like she had Gundren.
So,
like,
I was slightly confused later. She is not the same doppelganger that we fought later on, right?
No, he has two
She didn't
doppelgangers.
somehow survive. Okay.
Army of doppelgangers.
He specifically
that
has
was my
two.
question.
He specifically has two doppelgangers. The adventure just kind of mentions almost in passing, and they seem like they are rife with opportunity to like fuck with you guys.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
But you guys actually got the fucking scroll of like revive from the owlbear's chest and was able to revive Gundren, so that was cool. Instantly using some useful loot.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, this dungeon was just kind of full of guys. I think Sildar's gear was like over here or somewhere. There's a cool monster here called a Grick, which you can actually run into these in the Lost Mine also as a random encounter. It's this weird like tentacle snake thing that drops down from the ceiling and attacks you guys. And then there's some like religious goblins over here, and they had some kind of magic artifact that had like a one-time scroll use. And otherwise, there's a shit ton of more goblins, hobgoblins in the front. So
Right.
kind of a neat little dungeon, I guess, that you guys ended up basically skipping half of and just kind of going straight to the boss and then leaving, like, because once you found, like, and you might have wanted to just, you know, hang around and just to eliminate stuff, but at that point, Gundren was like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to stay.
Yeah, explore some more.
In hindsight, we probably should have.
Technically,
Just to
never
get all
killed,
that
never
sweet
killed
XP.
never killed King Groll either, the actual bugbear chieftain of the tribe. Especially considering how much you guys had destroyed all of Thundertree, I was surprised that we only ended up doing half of this one. So
I think it was because Gundren had just died.
yeah, you guys had left him for a while. He was in a bad shape.
His throat had been slit. We had brought him back to life.
Yeah.
He was like at 1 HP.
And
we were
this,
like,
and this dungeon was still like half full of
it's
dudes. You're like, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, it's like, what happens if he gets hit just out of
Yeah.
nowhere? You know, we can't control it. Yeah.
Story-wise, it definitely made sense to get out of there, and I definitely pushed that. And thankfully,
But all those.
there was extra stuff. Well, that was enough to get you guys to level 4. That was the important thing. The adventure even states, like, because it's so open, players might not be level 4 by the time they get to the Lost Mine, and if they aren't, then you need to adjust things, because this mine is designed for level 4 characters.
Yeah.
And we went to level 4, basically talked to Gundren a little bit, although you guys probably still knew. I mean, there's not much story here. It's just the drow had found the mine first and wanted to eliminate anybody that tried to come to it. And he basically recruited this goblin tribe as well as Glassstaff and his Redbrands, and those two factions were there to just help keep the mine hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys went to Wave Echo Cave, which was a gigantic level 4 dungeon. Far bigger. And this is when I was worried, because I was thinking about this dungeon and how long it took us to do Thundertree, and I was like, this is going to take us fucking 2 months to get through. Like, it's
Well, hell, we had like 2 marathon sessions.
We did. That was a big difference. We had a
Yeah.
4-hour session followed by a almost 3.5-hour session to basically end it out. So we needed those to get it done in that time frame.
Yeah. Boy, this place was confusing as all hell.
Yeah,
For me
and just looking
personally.
at it without even, you can see all the intertwining paths, and a nightmare. Like, it's cool for you guys to have all these options. Nightmare for me to figure out like where all you guys can go and what you can encounter
Yeah.
and how things should respond if you go one way or another. Especially, as I said, it feels dumb to just leave the black spider like in his base, twiddling his thumbs, waiting for you guys to like come kill him. So
Yeah.
This is the one where we fought the slime, right?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so yeah, I thought it was funny that we chose a one path that we weren't ready for right when we came in.
That was a bummer. Yeah. So you guys, essentially, when I
The
made
odds
this, I know.
That would happen.
When I made this map, I was literally like 90% done. The only thing I didn't have was this upper left room. I didn't have any of the tokens in there. I didn't have any of the characters, and I didn't have the Black Spider's character sheet built at all. And I was like,
Oh.
there's no way they're going to get all the way back to that corner. And you guys fucking did. Like, you went...
Just ran.
You took a beeline to this northwest caverns, fought the slime, kept going northwest, went to the water, didn't fuck with the water, went east, killed all the bugbear. Or no, then you went to the door, which I should have stopped you here and had the battle happen at that point. But you guys
I think
got,
that was just like there are times when you're looking up stuff and we're just moving our tokens around.
yeah,
You know
that,
what
and
I mean?
I mentioned
Like,
that.
you
Like, I needed to. What I should have done is enable Fog of War, do something on there, or just draw a line of dynamic lighting, which also stops you guys, and just literally have some areas where, like, technically your character can see, but I need you guys to stop and let me catch up to like what's happening.
Right. Yes.
Because yeah, especially a dungeon
Something's-
like this where there's no like doors, you know, separating. Like, it's just hallways and shit.
Yeah.
Like that got actually really stressful for me. That first session where you guys were doing that, I was like, oh shit. And even during that session, if you watch my video, I am furiously building the Black Spider in Roll20 while you guys are fighting this bugbear fight here, just in case you guys make it in there. And thankfully, we never got that far again, but I was super stressed out for that one. I was like, shit, they made it all the way back here. One fun note, so you guys did not go in the water, you did throw something in there, which there is no monster in the water, but if you explore the bottom of it, there is treasure.
Really?
Yes. If you explore the pool about 10 feet from the shore and 10 feet underwater, there are the remains of a human wizard who has 2 very expensive rings and a wand of magic missiles.
Wow.
And you would have no reason or idea to explore that water. But I thought it was funny that you guys were afraid of the water, and instead the adventure put a fucking awesome piece of treasure in there for free.
That
That's
was pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
It goes to show you things can be death traps as well as treasure-laden rewards.
That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from what we've been talking about thus far is that we don't explore enough. We don't jump into like the holes that we need to jump into.
Maybe. I mean, sometimes they are like dangerous traps and stuff involved.
Sometimes,
but
yeah.
that one happened to be a straight-up reward that you guys just never wanted to fuck with the water, which is understandable. It can be very dangerous.
That's funny. Yeah.
Man, this giant bugbear fight, that was a lot of bugbears, and originally it was only the 3 or 4, and then I definitely had these back guys, because I figured they're close enough, and there's a battle happening, and they're kind of on the watch anyway. So they joined in, and that was a bunch of bugbears for you guys to fight. But because it was kind of an elevated difference right there, you had like 2 or 3 on the bottom that had to come up, and there was a little bit of a... And you took and somehow you took the doppelganger out of the fight, even though he was attacking you the whole fucking time. He never could hit you or do anything. I was like pulling my hair out that this guy was that dumb.
That's
And
right.
the whole time
yeah,
I'm thinking, at some point, do I need to like morph him into doppelganger mode or something? But it's not gonna do any good now. Like, I should just keep this hidden and try to do something else with it.
Right, I'm about to say, like, from his perspective, would he have changed back into his doppelganger mode at any point?
I don't think so. Like, not unless you had killed him, then he would have obviously reverted.
Right.
And thankfully, we ended it there, and then we started the next session, and I was able to build all that shit properly. And then he simply took you... Or no, you actually retreated back to the barracks and short-rested. Then you went north, and he escorted you to talk to the Black Spider. You docked with him, which that was interesting, because I was like, I don't even know if they're going to just straight up want to, like, murder him now, or if they're actually going to talk to me what he has to say. I wasn't sure.
Neither were we.
Yeah, I don't think we knew.
I was kind of worried, because I knew there'd be a lot of bad guys involved, because those giant spiders, like, hidden around the columns. And then the doppelganger, obviously, was a enemy. But you guys actually did want to work with a bad guy for once, essentially. And he was telling the truth about the undead, obviously, blocking the way. So he couldn't... He was kind of at a stalemate in his situation.
Right. I think the only reason we were working with him at that point was because he had one of the guys hostage, right?
Well, you guys traded at that
somebody.
moment. You traded your hostage for
Oh,
Nundro.
yeah, that's right.
And then you guys basically just parted ways, and he was like, yeah, go kill the undead for me. And you guys were like, okay. So I was surprised, but I let you guys do that, so walked out of there. And interestingly, there is a whole section on like random encounters that can happen in the mine. And essentially, if either I can randomly roll, or if you guys just take too long, I can have something happens. But it has a whole list of monsters that can just randomly occur, which I didn't want to use too much, and we can discuss random encounters in general, but I feel like there was already a lot, going on in the mine. The one time I did take advantage of that is when you guys came out, I wanted to have, like, ghouls munching on these bodies just to know that, especially since you guys had just been given the information about undead in the mine and hadn't seen any, I wanted to actually, like, do the show, don't tell, and have, like, fucking ghouls already be up here, like, eating the corpses of dudes.
Right.
Which led to another... semi-easy fight. Ghouls are not that bad. They just paralyze you.
Yeah, I got paralyzed quite a bit by ghouls.
Quite a bit. And then you guys returned Nundro to Gundren, and then long rested, and then we started our giant 4-hour session of actually, basically properly exploring the cave this time. And essentially going east... We hit the Sturges, which that was a funny trap. There's a bunch of skeletons here, and you guys just heard about undead. You're using Divine Sense, like, okay, I think it's safe. And then immediately you walk in the middle of it, and nobody looks up at the ceiling, because why would you? I didn't describe it. And just a horde of fucking Sturges come down.
Yep.
And end up doing a ton of damage. And you were totally right about the room down here, where you're like, it's a junk room full of junk skeletons that was just a trap. I'm like, yep, basically there's no treasure in here. You could just avoid this room completely and just go in this one and get treasure, but you guys wouldn't know that, so...
Yeah.
It's that weird risk-reward thing, like, you just don't know, and almost every room is either a risk-reward or sometimes both.
Yeah.
The mushroom bit was funny, because you can actually go through those mushrooms and skip all the way to find Mormisk and the Spectator.
In hindsight, yeah.
In hindsight.
You can...
And hilariously, you guys both saved against the mushrooms that pump, like, poisonous gas into the chamber. It's fascinating, because there's just so many paths throughout this dungeon, and that one actually did work as intended, where it kind of stopped your guys' progress.
Yeah.
Instead of just having a wall
is there
there.
a way to get... Can you get past the mushrooms?
Oh yeah, you can just go through them if you make that save.
Hold your breath. Yeah.
All 4 of us would have to save.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
And it does do a pretty good amount of poison damage. But in theory, you'd be able to go all the way over to meet the stuff on the right, which you guys ended up doing at the very end. So instead, you went north, fought some ghouls. Then you got a little bit lost. You guys tried to go back into this like maze of tunnels over here. And that's when Kethra went up north and found ghouls. More ghouls.
That's right.
Which the rogue is the best one to do that because she can do that bonus action of disengage and dash and all that shit. So
Yeah.
if she runs into stuff, it's actually not that bad as any of you getting caught, essentially. But then you guys ended up going back around, finding a safe room. I think you ended up exploring this entire dungeon. It is gigantic.
Yes. Yeah. We covered everything.
Then we had the Flame Skull fight.
Oh yeah.
That was a fun battle because you guys know I never get to play around with my good toys. And that
The
was
Flame
just-
Skull fight was only really tough because of one specific thing.
Yes.
That's the goddamn fireball spell.
He has one slot and one spell at level 3 of Fireball. And
Which nearly
I knew it
killed
was going to be bad.
all of
I was
us.
like, fuck it, I'm unleashing it.
Yeah.
Not going to wait for him to get fucking KO'd.
Right.
Thankfully, yeah, that could have actually gone south pretty quick. And I ended up basically using Inspiration as a little bit of a gaming method
Yeah.
to help you guys a few
Right.
times when you needed it. Because, yeah, that Fireball, if you guys hadn't all saved, that would have been nasty.
Well, we all didn't say.
But even then, the zombies weren't that bad because of, I guess, Fog Cloud at one point, but mainly just because only like 2 of them could really attack at a time. You guys actually did hold the line pretty well.
Yeah.
But that Flame Skull could just raining things down on you. That fight actually should have been much harder because that Flame Skull is supposed to be completely immune to fire, which I did not realize until afterwards. So that one point where you're scorching raying him and he loses his concentration and takes a bunch of damage, that shouldn't have happened at all. Because he's supposed to be just straight up not... I did him as resistant to fire. He is straight up immune to fire.
Wow. Okay.
So I
Not
shouldn't
all
even...
flame skulls can live up to their potential.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
so...
he didn't know he was immune to fire.
Yes. I messed that up, but he did end up using
Yeah,
all
that
of
was-
his spells, so he did last a while.
That was another instance of me thinking, what would happen if we died here?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really bad.
I thought we all were going
It's
to
funny
die
how
there.
close it gets, and yet you guys almost
Somehow-
never went down, like, in terms of actually going unconscious. So I thought the balance worked pretty well. I thought a lot of times you guys sailed through with flying colors because of stuff like Sleep and Fog Cloud, and then, yeah, like this instance, boy, that was a close, hard-fought battle, and you guys were chugging those potions of healing like crazy
Yes. Yes.
to keep up, which, yeah, good thing
We
had
we
amassed
used
a bunch
all
of them.
of them. Yeah. We had saved them up and we used them all.
And then Talus thought to use Detect Magic, which I liked, and I went ahead and gave you the full information about the Flame Skull, because otherwise I don't think you'd have a clue. I don't expect any of you guys to know anything about the monster manual, so I try to kind of give you guys those little... And I originally had that idea of, like, you guys can roll investigation, figure things out, and then I kind of dropped that and was like, I'm just going to show you the picture and, like, a description of the character, and then from there you guys can figure what they do out just by watching them. But the Flame Skull, you wouldn't know he fucking rejuvenates in an hour unless you cast certain spells on him, so... Luckily, you
So
already have
just-
the foresight to cast Detect Magic, and I let you just learn all that information from that.
Yeah, it's entirely possible to fight him again and then die.
In theory,
Right.
yeah. And he regains all his shit, and he's intelligence of, like, 11 or something, so he would straight up, like, remember. He's not just some mindless automaton. And yeah, I have read reports of other DMs that just rejuvenate him again and again and have him, like, harass the party throughout the dungeon. Like, it sounds terrible.
But that fireball, though, if he gets his fireball back,
Yes!
we're just fucking
That's
dead.
awful, and he would probably unleash with that first.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you guys had a awesome solution where you went all D&D Mythbusters and fucking used this giant smelter in the room to encase
Well,
him.
what was the smelter? What was the smelter for, if not that?
Well, it was just there because it existed in the mine. It wasn't necessarily there to be used by you guys.
I assume there had to
But-
be some function to it.
But I liked that you interpreted it that way. I liked that you were like, let's use this giant fucking smelter here. We're gonna use our superhero level strength to push the wheel and attempt to light it and get all that going. So I enjoyed that solution. You guys all worked together to encase the Flame Skull, and frankly, I didn't like the idea of having him continually come back to life and harassing you guys. So I thought that was a good enough solution to entomb him and keep him there. Then
Here's a random
go ahead.
question I wanted to ask at the time. Since Kalinar is like a paladin type person, if we had gotten some water, could he have blessed it and made it holy?
I looked that up. I can. It takes an hour and 25 gold worth of powdered silver.
Oh.
So I would have had to have bought powdered silver at some point.
Interesting.
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, why can't we just run and go get water? He blesses it with some holy thing, and we just dump it on him.
Yeah. It's I don't know why. Yeah, if you're buying powdered silver, why would you not just buy a flask of holy water? I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably buy that shit. Maybe I could have let you melt it down Talon or something.
Ground it into powdered silver. Anyway, yeah. So I could have, but I didn't have the materials for that either.
Yeah. I like the solution because I knew you guys didn't have anything, and there was nothing in the dungeon. I was thinking about maybe I should put like a remove curse spell somewhere, like scroll somewhere or something. But in the end, I liked the solution you had. So I was like, oh, that's fine. So at some point in the intervening, like, you know, we can mention that in the epilogue. Like, you guys did go by and get holy water, and then came back and like, I just somehow opened up a crack and just threw a whole bunch of holy water in there. Or just used, like, bought a scroll spell and just basically said the spell while he was still in there, and then he just goes still.
Because otherwise, Gundren's reopening that mine, so there's a fucking chunk of metal that's rattling around in there right now.
Yeah, you guys would have to deal with the flame skull that was in there permanently, so. By the way. Then I wanted to do something cool. My original idea was to have you guys sleep and have Nundro come and warn you guys to come back to the entrance, and then I would have Nesnar spring his trap on you at the entrance. But I felt like that would have made things too difficult because you guys would be down in a pit and like all his guys would be up on the top. So I just ended up having you guys go back to the temple because we hadn't really used the temple before as a fighting ground. So I just had him. And since Nundro was the one that's captured, the doppelganger absolutely knew how to be Nundro. So he just turned into Nundro and had you guys bring him back. Because essentially at that point, the Black Spider had realized, obviously while you guys were sleeping, that the Flame Skull had been defeated. And then he figured, like, okay, the way is clear, and now I need to deal with those guys and not let them go any farther.
Gotcha, yeah.
So that was his reasoning for bringing you guys back there. I don't know if you guys would have... It sounded like you guys would have continued to the east and try to deal with those guys, the Wraith and stuff first.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, before we went back to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those wonderful moments where you're like sitting there thinking, wait, how did he find us? Oh, well,
that's a good question. Yeah. No one stopped to actually question any of that. Like,
yeah.
What's he doing here exactly?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is he running out? Yeah.
So... yeah, he brought you guys back to the chamber, and then he transformed into Doppelganger, and then the Black Spider unleashed his villainous, monologue.
I still want to lodge a complaint that I didn't get to punch the Doppelganger. I should have been given one free punch in the face.
Everybody hated that guy. Yeah, there was no... There were some role-playing notes for Nesnar... But, like, they're none for Gundren, none for Nundro, none for that Valak doppelganger thing. Like, I just kind of had to go sit in my pants for a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Is this one of those things, when you get to the villain type thing and they start in on their monologue of how they're going to kill you, kind of like a la James Bond, and you can just be like, you know what, wait a minute, let's just get this show on the road and just, like, cut them off. Again, with like a punch to the face.
Yeah, I suppose we could let that happen. I just felt like I needed to explain, like, not have him just be this random, like, villain, but kind of semi-teased, like, why he was doing this and all that kind of thing, just briefly before entering the battle. Because, like, afterwards, you're not going to know anything.
Yeah.
So I tried to tease like he needed like the forge and to be welcomed back into his people and all that kind of good stuff. So, but he would never make it to the forge because you guys fought a very long fight, a very difficult fight. The fog cloud was able to.
Got hard.
Yeah, it did. That one got interesting because I did try to have him escape, and then he kind of thought twice about it and wanted to like. He thought he had the upper hand and wanted to attack you guys, but you guys way came back at him. And then the spiders were like completely ineffective throughout the entire fight. But just those two,
good.
yeah. The bugbears and doppelganger alone though were doing some serious damage to you guys. Like holy
Yeah.
crap!
They were. Yeah. A doppelganger did 2 attacks to me that took down 2/3 of my life.
Yeah,
in,
like
one
one
turn.
bugbear hit can do like some significant damage.
Yeah.
Which is funny that you guys had fought one all the way back at level 1, and now you were fighting like multiples of them. So I thought that was a cool bit of like showing how strong you've gotten too.
Right.
This would have killed me like back when we started this match. Now it just really hurts. And it was also interesting when we had to split the party. You guys straight up were fighting like 2 different battles, which was interesting from my point of view. Since you guys can't see each other and know what's going on.
Yeah. I didn't know how the fight against the actual black spider was going.
Yeah. I felt like it was decently climactic. Just that the black spider spell list isn't nearly as destructive or as impressive as the flame skulls. So.
Right.
But he had,
which is good because we had enough of that from the flame skull.
That one was an interesting fight just from the sheer variety of NPCs. Like I don't think I've ever had that many different kinds of initiative I was rolling.
Yeah.
Between the doppelganger, bugbear, giant spider, and then Nesnar. So then after that, it was actually just kind of cleanup duty because you guys could just go east. And again, at this point, like I can always like do random encounters and stuff, but I didn't really want to. It just felt weird. I had you guys go, and you guys actually went southeast, and took on the Wraith, which that was another instance of technically this bad guy will talk to you and parlay with you, and he just wants basically the forge all to himself and the magic stuff in the mine all to himself. He's essentially one of the wizards that just came back as a Wraith. And you guys didn't want anything to do with him, which
what would have happened?
Totally
what would happen with Gundren trying to reopen the mine with him there still
he
there?
wouldn't have been able to because there's fucking still undead in the
Okay.
mine.
Yeah.
You guys would have had to deal with him for sure. And then it's just I like the option that a lot of these things aren't just mindless things that like run up and attack you. Like there are a lot of role playing opportunities for some creatures, and some of them it is beneficial for you to work with, and some of them it's not. Like some of them will screw you over. Like And the Spectator, which was a fun fight. This is the end of our 4-hour sessions. I was hoping you guys would pick up on this, and you did, which was you can totally talk this guy down out of a fight. He is meant to be deranged, that still thinks it's basically hundreds of years ago and the mine is still in operation, and that he thinks nothing ill or weird about undead occasionally wandering in, and he has to blast them and kill them. Which is why the doors are like all destroyed and stuff, because his chamber has been invaded before, and he just kills everything that tries to come in and take anything.
Right.
But you can totally talk to him, and funny, you can either convince him to leave through one of the role-playing ways, which was to say, like, either your task is done, or the wizards are gone, or whatever else, and you were able to roll the deception check, or you can blind him. Literally, you could have casted Fog Cloud, and he would have gone, I can't see, I can't fulfill my duty, and he would have disappeared.
Alright.
He needs to see to be able to guard.
Would we have got anything better if we had killed him versus what we did?
No, and that's why I ended up giving you guys full XP, because I liked that you guys took him out non-violently, which I think that was almost the more clever way of doing it. So I did want to give you guys full XP for that for him. But I mean, no, his treasure was in the room. It was the Lightbringer mace and the breastplate. Sadly, the Forge of Spells is not quite what it used to be. Now it only
which makes the whole drow thing in hindsight kind of nonsensical, because he was like his whole plan was to capture this dinky little flame.
Nobody knew. You didn't know that.
Yeah.
He
yeah,
had never
didn't know,
gotten to
yeah.
the forge. I mean, it was sad for him because nobody knew that the forge was basically almost all spent.
Yeah.
It can still enchant items, but I think it was only for like 1d4 hours or something. So essentially, if you guys do
Right.
manage to make it over here in the earlier parts of the dungeon, you can enchant all your weapons, essentially to last to like the next short rest, which can be a big temporary power boost. But instead,
I
it
would
was
have enjoyed
literally
that
the
roleplay
last.
session.
Yeah, instead it was literally the last thing
Telling
you
the
ended
drow
up getting.
that like what he's there for is worthless.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So it's interesting from my point of view because I have to make these notes based on the order in which you guys do things because I have to be prepared for like, how do these characters respond if this happens. And yeah, that was Wave Echo Cave. That took us 4 weeks, but 2 of those weeks were super long. 2 of those sessions.
Right.
So if you want some fun stats...
Is there anything we didn't do in this dungeon?
No, I think the only thing was that pool with the wand in it.
Right,
You
right.
found and killed everything else in this dungeon.
Yes.
There was nothing in the mushroom but death. There was... Yeah, you found the treasures and looted everything else. The only other thing was just any random encounters that I wanted to do while you guys were walking around, and I just felt like... How do you guys feel about random encounters in general? Like, I know I did a couple, like, when you were wandering around in the Overland map.
They're great. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I like 'em.
okay.
They're fun because you don't have to be conservative, like you do
Okay.
when you're in a dungeon.
So you
when you're in a
enjoy that.
dungeon, you're like, do I use the spell slot? 'Cause if I use a spell slot, I won't have it for later, or I might need it for later, and you end up sort of like hedging your bets a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas on those, you're like, I can fire everything. I'm going right back to sleep after this.
It's weird, yeah, the way resting the way resting works. That was a weird thing I realized. Like, yeah, in the adventures, you guys can just unleash everything, almost like it's a boss fight,
Yeah.
and you guys are fully rested every time. So, like, the random encounters aren't quite the same difficulty level as an encounter would be in the dungeon. Like, they're all like
Right.
easier for that reason.
Yes, yes.
I did try to make them a little more. Like, I did try to include a little bit of flavor text in there instead of just like, a wild thing appears. But
I mean, I liked them just because they're a little bit different in terms of the way you go about the fight.
yeah, I'm going to try to work on them for the next campaign. When one piece of advice I saw that somebody gave me was specifically to try to get all your random stuff ahead of time, like know what encounters you want to run and set those up before and not do the whole like rolling thing, because literally what I do for like the outside ones is it says twice a day and twice at night roll a d20. If it's 17 or higher, then an encounter happens, then roll a 1d12 and then consult this chart based on what you rolled. So literally, I'm furiously trying to do all this while trying to like not pause the story and be like, "Hang on, guys, I gotta roll down,"
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just kind of ended up where I would just have to drag tokens and roll HP, and it kind of takes a while. So partly what I'm gonna try to do is set up a little more unique encounters, kind of like the Hobgoblin camp, but maybe not that involved, but that are more like a little bit of a random event instead of literally just a like, hey, you guys found an orc patrol, attack,
Right.
and that kind of thing. So there might be slightly less of those, but hopefully they will be more meaningful, I suppose.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm glad, so you guys do like those. So I could have been launching them in Wave Echo Cave. A big reason I didn't was just time constraints, though, because it just would have felt like it just would have added more. And then in a dungeon, that's
that would
different,
defeat
too.
the purpose of what we liked about them, though.
Yeah,
If they
it would
happened
have
in
just
a
slowed you
dungeon,
down.
It would have just slowed us down. We would have been hedging our bets again because we wouldn't want to,
Yeah, whenever we're out, like, exploring the world, if we have
It's
like,
fine,
keep
yeah.
up
Yeah.
whatever.
In a dungeon, it's a little more.
You would expect it kind of at that point too.
I feel like the only way I would do
Yeah,
it in a
you're-
dungeon, like that one time, would be to like for a story reason, or like if you guys went to rest somewhere, but there was still hostile things somewhere, I could have like those come wandering by or something. Could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was, you guys found everything else. So the only big treasure caches you missed, and you did find the Gauntlets of Ogre Power, which I was impressed. You had to roll a like Perception 20 to be able to find them. Which you guys did like the second chance. Which that's a
Yeah.
weird one because that one's just like they can try every hour, and I'm like, okay, so does something bad happen if they just spend 6 hours searching for this fucking thing? And that probably would have been an opportunity where, like, after the third roll, I'd been like, okay, well, fucking another slime just fucking crawls through the rocks. And, some kind of punishment has to happen.
Until you're dead. Yeah.
Yeah, the only major one you missed was the Dragon's Horde, which I don't know who's getting that, and then that wand. You guys found everything else. And killed a
What
shit ton of
scrolls are in the Dragon Slayer?
stuff. It is a scroll of Misty Step and a scroll of Lightning Bolt.
Ooh.
I want to go cry.
I would have liked those.
So, it took us 4 months, 18 weeks, 45 hours total, according to my math, because I recorded the time it took for each session. 45 total hours to do the Lost Mine of Phandelver, in case you were wondering. We averaged 2.5 hours per session. Our shortest session was 2 hours, which was the one where I didn't have that room set up, the one following the New Year day. And
Wait,
our
that was
longest
2
session,
hours? Wow.
yeah. And our longest session was the following week, which was obviously that 4-hour epic that ended with the Flame Skull fight. We literally went from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Wave Echo Cave alone took 4 sessions, averaging 3 hours each. So that final dungeon took 12 hours to get through. If you think about that. And we started at level 1 and ended at level 4 3/4. I think you guys are pretty close to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the one hand, I'm actually glad you guys didn't reach 5 because that will help me tune the beginning. Since you guys jump, the difference between 4 and 5 is actually a big jump because of that proficiency bonus and then a bunch of new stuff you guys get. So you guys actually get a huge power increase.
Attack twice.
It's pretty
Just
devastating.
straight up attack twice.
So I won't have to quite balance as devastating as I thought I had to for the beginning of the next, because the beginning of the Prince of the Apocalypse, the main campaign is designed for level 3.
Oh boy.
So just by making a few adjustments, I can make it a little more interesting for 4.
Okay.
But you guys, I mean, eventually it'll even out.
We'll catch up, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about, there are factions that exist within this world that kind of tie into certain personalities or classes or things, and they're basically used as kind of adventuring hooks to, like, your character is designed to work for these. It's like you're working for S.H.I.E.L.D. or something, you know, like Marvel, or some organization. Okay. And it's like, this is kind of like your reason for being an adventurer, or like your reason for going out and doing things. And then there are certain NPCs in the world that belong to the faction, and you can always like talk to them, and they'll help you get quests and stuff. I have not used the faction system at all in this adventure, even though a couple of the NPCs are part of those factions, because they didn't do anything in the Lost Mine of Phandelver quest. They were literally just there as like introductions to the faction. And I think they're kind of made for the Adventurers League thing, which is where you can go join like some real group, like a weekly meetup, and do things like that. So I was going to ask you guys if you guys care, if you want to do factions as a story or gameplay hook, or if you'd rather just use your backstories and like the NPCs you know of, or what you guys think.
I mean, if there's one that makes sense in terms of what I've already established, my backstory, then yeah, absolutely.
Like, there's...
Let
me see the player's handbook real quick. Do you remember there?
Is there a... Yeah, is it in the player's handbook?
I think so. Well, it might be in the Dungeon Master one. There's 5 main factions. They're not in here.
I've got a D&D link for it. send you guys.
Yeah, there's the Zentarim, there's the Lord's Alliance, there's the Order of the Gauntlet, a nature one, Emerald Enclave.
I put it in.
Oh, you got
20.
one. Okay.
Yeah.
And essentially, there was one of each in Phandalin that belonged to each one. I believe Sildar was the Lord's Alliance. And essentially, like, I could, as a story hook, I can have one of these characters, ask, like, one... And here's the weird thing, is it's designed where each of your characters could join a different faction.
Mm-hmm.
And then get all your different motivations and reasons for doing things there. But that also... I mean, that could work, but it also feels weird. It feels like all of your characters... I think of you as like a superhero team where you're all working for, like, you're on the same team, essentially. So it feels like you'd all be working for the same organization rather than each having your own, like, motivations and things and just happen to be working together. But
we do, don't we? I mean, like we don't, like, none of the rest of us give a shit about the Church of Saloon. That's the reason Miri's out there doing stuff.
Right, and I'm saying...
presumably no one else cares about...
Yeah.
Which, like, what?
Well, and that's kind of what the factions would be, which is I don't know why, if we need to do that on top of your already differing backstories, I guess. Or the other option is that you can use one faction that you guys all work for and use that as like your Agents of Shield, and that's like your faction.
I don't think all of us would work for the same faction though.
Okay.
Because we're all doing this for very different reasons, and just reading these factions, I don't see one that we could all agree on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the Harpers, the Order of the Gauntlet, the Emerald Enclave, the Lord's Alliance, and the Zentarim. And the Harpers are basically like chaotic good guys. They are good guys, but they try to make sure they don't like... they're kind of like hippies, I guess, anarchists. But like good about it, like they want to keep evil away from power and stuff. They don't want anybody to get too powerful. Order of the Gauntlet is all like justice and truth, and Paladins and Clerics are all about it. Emerald Enclave is all nature, druids and rangers. Lord's Alliance is like nobles, but they're like also they want to have all the cities be in charge, and basically civilization rules. And the Zentarim are basically like the rogue guild. They want to just control everything through like wealth and power. So there's kind of one for every type of character, I guess. And my question is, do I want to include all of these factions on top of your all's backstories? Like, do I want to have all these NPCs approach all of your characters separately and ask them to join these factions, and then include, like, hooks?
Can you just fold those hooks into our existing backstories?
I think
like, instead
so,
of
yes.
having someone from the Order of the Gauntlet, like, approach me and be like, I see you're part of the Order of the Gauntlet. You should do this for us. Can you instead just make that part of the Church of Tyr that I'm from? Like, just have it randomly be somebody that would recognize me?
Well, that was kind of my question, is do I want to either use these factions, or do I want to just incorporate that stuff into your already existing backstories and characters and stuff? So, essentially, yes. Like, I could have that come up, or I can do something like, to pull the curtain back a little bit, like if Sildar wanted to approach somebody and say, you should join the Lord's Alliance, and here's your first assignment. Or I can just have him be, alright guys, well I trust you, and y'all have worked really well, here's what you can do to help us, like kind of, like do I want to actually include the formal factions into it, or just use what I have already? And I'm just asking you guys because I've literally been mulling over it for a while now, and I haven't really decided one way or the other.
I feel like a compromise would be in order. Like, instead of just having Sildar say, like, I trust all of you, I feel like the person that would be in that guild would be the person he would want to talk to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you do want, like, different people to approach, maybe...
That makes sense to me, yeah. Because, I mean, like someone from that, in the factions bit, someone from the Order of the Gauntlet wouldn't approach Kethra to ask her to do stuff. He'd probably be hesitant to even approach us as a group, but he would be approaching me. While, imagine...
Yeah, it just felt weird to me because everybody knows you guys all work together. It's like, well, as long as our agent's getting things done, I guess it's okay if, like, the other...
I think that's kind of the thing, yeah. Like the beginning of the second Captain America movie, where like Captain America and Black Widow are on a mission, but Captain America missions and Black Widow's missions are different.
Slightly different, yeah.
Like,
but that creates
she's
such
there to do one
animosity.
thing and he's there to do another. So
Yeah. That created such animosity.
Well, there's a good deal of animosity between in our group already for
This is true.
the way we go about things.
All right. Reese, do you have any food for thought on that, Heather?
Not really.
I mean, I like our backgrounds. I like when they get incorporated into different stuff. But I mean, like Chris was saying, if it makes sense for our character to go along with one of these factions, that's perfectly fine.
I will say I am doing a much better job of this campaign. The first thing I did was hook your characters' backstories and events, each of yours, into this story in some way. And often in multiple ways. Either characters you would know, events that have happened that you would recognize, things that would have affected your character or whatever. They will be incorporated into this adventure in some pretty neat ways, if I do say so myself. So hopefully
cool.
that will work out much better. And there are a few things where I will need to message your guys privately and tell you, like, making sure you're okay with this bit of, like, me telling you this is what happened. Like, I might change a name or two, or say, like, hey, this happened to your character on the way in, or something, like, to where you would know, and then when that event comes up, you'll be like, oh, or something. The only issue is, keep in mind, this campaign will last us a while, so, some of you might not see things for weeks, because this is a big campaign. It'll be a while before you might get to a certain city or see a certain event or something, so keep that in mind also.
If you don't remember something.
Yeah, this will be... And I'll keep doing that quest journal system. I think that worked pretty decently with the handouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It kept it all nice and orderly.
Yeah, because there's a lot of information, and just given the amount of time it takes between stuff, I think that helps you guys keep track of your current goals, and as well as just pieces of information. And there are a couple ones. The beginning of this new campaign, the main quest is actually going to be an investigation, so I can have one of them just be like clues and notes that you guys find that are relevant, and I can actually open it up where you guys can edit it yourself for those kind of notes.
Oh, okay.
And then keep track of the journal entries on your own. So, I meant to ask you this at the beginning so you guys would think about it, but I want each of you to give me your favorite moment from the whole adventure, now that we have made it from beginning to end and covered everything. I'll give you guys a few minutes to think about what you think your number one moments are, but before we do that, so any more overall thoughts on the campaign we just did, or D&D in general? Anything that you wanted to discuss or that stood out? Now would be the time. Dynamic lighting seemed to work pretty well.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's frustrating at times, but it's frustrating in a fun way.
Yeah.
It's like, I wish I could see over there. I don't know what's going on.
I thought that added an interesting layer on top of it. Although it did make it complicated in the end when maps don't have doors, so you guys can move your tokens around free.
Oh, right,
so
yeah.
I will make sure to nip that in the bud for future wide open damn mines.
I think it was a good investment.
Yeah.
Mostly
I enjoyed
like towards the very end. Do you remember? Talis and I were fighting. What's his name? The Black Spider.
it. Yeah.
And when neither of us could see him, you did the invisible spell, didn't you?
Yes.
Although I thought I heard you counting, but I don't know if you. I guess that's not part of the role playing though.
You actually counted some, like,
Yeah,
spaces or
I was
something.
probably counting spaces. Yeah.
But yeah,
Roll20
so,
does.
I mean, none
have some
of us could see him,
complications.
so I didn't know. I thought he ran away. I didn't realize would cast invisible again.
I felt like that would have been super disappointing to have him straight up run away. I thought for a brief moment maybe he would run to the entrance and try to hold the dwarves hostage. But then you guys would have had to try to pick up on that, and I don't know if you guys would have done that or not. Like, after you defeated here, try to go back down there and chase after him or something. So, ultimately, I just had him rejoin that fight. Because what if you guys, like, don't go after him and then short rest? I'm like, well, fuck, now what do you do?
Yeah.
Basically, I hate the idea of having to keep track of NPCs in real time. Like, it's way easier if they're literally just doing their own thing until you guys get there. But once you, like, activate them and then you're, like, around in a dungeon, then it gets stressful for me because I have to have all these moving pieces. And there's one particular dungeon, this next one, that literally has, like, patrols happening with different groups. And I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be a nightmare to run.
Oh, Lord. You're going to have to, like, stop us after we move, like, a certain number of feet. Like, all right, everybody needs to stop.
Everybody freezes until I can catch up to what's going on.
Never.
I always move the token. All right, so favorite moments. Do you have favorite moments? Chris, you want to start off?
I don't want to start off.
I'll start off.
Yeah, you
Reese,
start off.
please.
Just that confrontation with the necromancer, and I guess getting like my backstory filled in a little bit more.
Nice.
Or something.
Yeah.
I thought was interesting, and then I guess there was a slight confrontation between me and Kalinar. I forgot.
I think there was, like, during that moment where he, like, comes back to you and he's, like, in your face and shit.
Yeah.
Right, because Callus wanted to actually, like, get him to like, work with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To send him back with the false information. I was like, the dude's fucking raising zombies around here. That can't be tolerated.
Was that the one where I called you insane?
Probably.
You're just like, fair enough.
Yeah,
There were several opportunities for that, I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to say when, what's your guy's name? Kalinar called the doppelganger's bluff, and then she ended up killing Gundren.
Yes.
That was,
Ah,
that was-
took mine.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was particularly disappointing. Yeah.
That was a, I don't know, that might have been a favorite one also, because that was just a fantastic
Yeah,
string of events of,
I-
oh yeah, we have the scroll.
I was so mad. I was like, son of a...
The guy we've been waiting
You
weeks
got
to
him
rescue.
killed. Yeah,
Pretty much the whole campaign, right? That's what
Yeah.
started it
pretty
all.
much the whole campaign.
And it was such an anticlimactic. He died.
Yep.
What's funny is he's
Nonetheless.
technically optional. The map is what's important to get out of there. Because
Oh, yeah.
the map is what gives you the location. Yeah, that's funny that she called your bluff, and then you were able to kill her, and then immediately use the scroll to revive him. Like, that was the perfect sequence of events.
Mm-hmm. I just got that, too.
Yeah. It was funny how that worked out. I forgot about it until you actually started pulling it out and looking at and Talus used a divination die to make sure you did it, because you could fail that roll and have that
Right.
scroll just disintegrate. So you needed that like for
Yes.
sure check.
Mm-hmm.
Heather or Chris?
I feel like mine actually would have been the one that Raymond said. It would have been the.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed in that moment because I was seriously like, "Fuck you! You're not going anywhere." And she's like, "All right, slit." I guess the dragon would have been another good one. That whole situation where we're now that one also was partially because that was just me. Like no
Yeah.
one else was even aware of what was being said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
How'd you guys feel about that when it was? I was literally just whispering to him like what was happening.
I mean, it makes sense. Only dragon. Talking dragon.
Yeah,
I didn't want to go
it's
on
like,
too long because I felt like that would be like super exclusionary.
Yeah. And also, it felt good, or I didn't feel good, but it was interesting that at the end of all that, like, talking they couldn't understand, it just devolved into a fight. Just like, oh shit, guys,
Yeah.
whatever was happening, it didn't
By
work
the
out.
by the way, acid breath now.
Acid breath, yep.
Oh yes, my favorite moments are every time you say "roll for initiative."
Like, oh damn.
I think mine will have to be the probably like the very first game where I punched the little goblin in the face and everyone was like, "Holy shit!" because I ripped his face off.
The very first example of what Muri was like in battle.
Yeah, the very first moment of face ripping.
Yeah.
Very violent monk.
Because everyone's like, it's a monk. She's not going to really do much.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
I can't believe no one has said when Droop joined our party.
Droop. I clearly don't know what to do with Droop.
Poor Drew. Yeah.
He's my backpack
Poor
or
Drew.
something. Who cares?
I mean, I really didn't want to make him a real NPC. That felt like I just didn't want to keep up with it, and it would have complicated like every situation. So
Yeah. Like, and what is Droop doing?
yeah.
Where? I don't even remember where he came from.
We saved him from the bugbears or something.
Yeah, that the Redbrand
Redbrand hideout.
There was a
Yeah,
group of
Redbrand.
bugbears there that were like torturing him. 'Cause they're dicks like that. Cool. Well, I believe that will actually draw this massive recap to a close. Actually, wasn't. Well, I guess it was still about 2 hours of recapping a 45-hour adventure.
Yeah.
Thumbs up, I think, to D&D 5th Edition and for this adventure. I thought this rule set seems to work really well. Like, I felt totally in control to where not only did I understand completely how to run the campaign, but I felt confident in creating my own little mini scenarios and modifying things, a few things as I saw fit. And you guys all did super well. Like, you knew your characters, you knew how to do all your abilities. There wasn't any question of just how to run things, I didn't think. So that all worked really well. I guess house rules. How do you guys feel about the house rules? Which the main one, I guess, was like the massive damage, which I guess you guys probably like because that's all in your favor.
Right. So far, it's all been in our favor.
Yeah.
So wait, did you make those up or?
It's in the Dungeon Master's Guide as like a variant you can do. So I did not make them up, but I chose to apply them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it never came up. Like, we didn't have to worry about... Well, I guess that one time you, Kethra fell in the Flame Skull, we had to roll for the con saving throw, and then she made it, so we never actually had to do a lasting injury, did we?
Right. Yeah.
Never came up.
It never came up.
Yeah, otherwise it's just all... And then, yeah, there was like the light injuries, there was the free D3 you can roll, and then the average dice. So yeah, all the shit's in your favor. You shouldn't have any complaints.
Yeah.
I'll think of something.
You know what we
Yeah.
didn't? You know what we never really used from just 5e is the backgrounds that we picked. Those just
Yeah,
never
right.
came up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We all picked. I forget what they were
like
again. but-
noble and
Yeah. None of that stuff ever came
Okay.
into play. I'm not sure if
Well-
that was just.
well, in terms of abilities, I don't even remember what y'all's were, but in terms of actual, like, I mean, I'm gonna try to integrate that into your straight up like backstory tales and stuff. I don't remember what, because each of them do
Right.
give you some kind of like role playing advantage or something.
I guess we did get what do you call it? Skill proficiencies out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of like story-wise, it's I assume all of your backstories basically use those backgrounds, so that's what I'm going to be working with.
Mm.
But yeah, do be reading about specific downtime activities. There might be stuff you guys can do that would actually, because I think you can actually gain proficiency and stuff, and between time, I still have to look all that, but surely your characters can be doing something during the hiatus. And like I said, probably there will be, game-wise, like a week or so between the events when you cleared the cave and when the new campaign starts. And real-time-wise, though, we'll be taking a 2-week hiatus and then starting off, whatever that is, like mid-February. Which I believe that Sunday is actually Valentine's Day, so we'll probably end up having maybe a Saturday session or a Monday session instead. Assuming everybody's got a late-night Valentine's Day planned, so... I would I would also.
I'm serious. I don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe we can do it. We can see. But for sure, 9 p.m. if that works for you guys. I think that will help a bunch, making that our new start time, since our daughter is going down much easier these days.
You now have jinxed it.
Alright, so I think that will bring this recap and this adventure to a close. The Lost Mine of Phandelver. Definitely recommend it to newbies to the 5th edition adventure. And it's just a cool low-level adventure. I think it's got a lot of neat things in it, a lot of neat monsters and role-playing opportunities. I felt as a new DM, I had a lot of information present, and then most of what wasn't present I could easily just work with. So I felt pretty confident in it. A huge thank you to all you guys for being awesome players, and I look forward to continuing our D&D adventures with our new upcoming campaign. This is the second or third published adventure, published last year. The Prince of the Apocalypse, coming soon to YouTubes near you. Thank you to Chris, Heather, Raymond, and Reese. I am Eric. We will be here in 3 weeks, I guess, doing Princes of the Apocalypse. For now, say goodbye to the Lost Mine and all our adventures there. Bye.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
I'll miss you, Lost Man.
I'll come back one day.
Yeah, we're going to start our adventure by diving into that pool.
Yeah.
We returned to the mine.
That's fun.
We had a dream where there was some shit in that pool.
I want that wand.